Well, folks, good day to you one and all, and welcome to what we enjoy to do when we sit at home and we have not got an opportunity to go down to the racetrack. Although we've been very lucky recently with COVID-19, been able to return to a lot of the different racing circuits. So tonight, a double header brought to you by Sebring Productions on behalf of Canvas Intelligence. We're down at Sebring International, and our regular commentators bringing you the info and action tonight. FC Livote, FC, good evening to you.
Good evening, Gary. Good evening, everybody sitting at home watching the live broadcast here of round number 3 of the Porsche 992 Cup support event for the MSA series.
And going mine side with him, the voice of Western Province Motorsport, Frankie Ernest. Frankie, good evening to you.
Good day, Gary. Good day, FC. Good day, everybody at home. Yes, a big thanks to the Canvas Intelligence Company. And we are in round 3 of the Porsche Cup at the Sebring International Raceway in the USA. 22 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, 20 km/h wind. Track temperature is 36 degrees. The circuit is 5.79 kilometers long, and we're only 19 meters above sea level. Remember, Sebring is in the state of Florida.
We are at the beginning of the qualifying session. As you see, 2 minutes in that is gone. It's Troy Dolanchik. It's out on circuit at the moment that we're having a look at, and I am sure he will be one of the frequent flyers out there in today's Porsche race. Those of you that are regulars will know exactly how it works. For those of you that aren't, we go and we set the computer up before the time, and when it gets to the qualifying session, each driver sees only his own car out there on circuit, and he's got an open track as such. We can't have a F1 type scenario where you can bulk people and slow them down. You've got one warm-up lap and then 2 flyers. Well, I think in fact you're going to find, given the timing around this circuit, you might even find that the guys will, some of them will get up to 3 laps out there on circuit to be able to put up some lap time. So as soon as they've all got on to the point where they start finishing their second lap, you'll see the names starting to come up on the side of the screen.
Yeah, interesting to note here, the lap record at Sebring is a 1 minute 41 odd, held by Kamui Kobayashi. That time was set in 2019 in a Toyota LMP1. And just scrolling through the information sheets here, going to have a look. The GTE time, the Le Mans GTE lap record, a 1 minute 55.642, held by Antonio Garcia, and that was set in a Chevrolet Corvette C8.R at the 12 Hours of Sebring in 2021.
Well, Frankie, one of the tracks that we were at recently, Silverstone, got massive amount of legendary named corners. This specific circuit, nothing like that. We talk about the Le Mans corner, Fangio Straight, Hairpin, Big Bend, Collier, Tower, Bishop, Sunset Bend. So not exactly a legendary type circuit, but a brilliant circuit in terms of the form of motorsport that you can get off a circuit with this type of twists and turns and bends in it.
Well, it's basically got everything except the crossover. It's got everything that you want in a racetrack. It's got kinks, it's got chicanes, it's got long straights, it's got everything on it as the first of the times come through. Jaco Steyn with a 203, 643, and Willem Pinard on a personal best, and Scott Montanari puts it on provisional pole with a 203.517.
Well, we do know that Scott Montanari is in fact leading the championship at this stage of the fight. Scott Montanari from Yazsamai, that being the top 2 on the log, and a lot of big names directly FC below that.
Yeah, if you have a look at the top 10 of the championship in the MSA Porsche Cup, Scott Montanari, Yaz Samai, Ati Nahel in there in that 3rd position, with Reinier Hubert, the man currently joint in that 4th place with Jaco Steyn. Jaco Steen's also already set a time out there of a 2 minute 3.643. Then behind them in 6th position, Kyle McCarthy with the Janneman Prius and JD van der Merwe, or Janneman van der Merwe out there in 17 points for 7th and 8th position, joint 7th position with Mark Devereaux in 9th and Mike Verrier and Andre Steenkamp holding on to that 10th position on the championship log.
Frankie out there on Circuit Attinagel, and wow, didn't he have a brilliant time out with the last event that he was involved in. Attinagel, it's not been around for us right from the beginning of iRacing South Africa, which coincides with the beginning, literally, of COVID. We didn't really know much about iRacing before that, but Attinagel just outside the top 5.
And Gerald Fourie is the quickest man out there with a 203.337, and Montanari with a 203.5. So everybody on 203s at this point in time, up and until the man in P6 Attinagel. Then a couple of drivers out there on 204s all the way down to Colin Plitt. And then Peter van Sale, Robbie Teams on a 205. Elroy Oliver, that's a new name, on a 207.164. And then Leonardo Baccaro on a 208. And Carl McCarthy, the man that's doing so well in the championship, is in P17 with a 208.811. And once again, look who goes to the top of the log, Attinagel with a 203 dead.
Yeah, 203 dead there for Attinagel, but Troy Dolenschenk ups it to a 2 minute 2.354. And keeping that in mind, in real-time racing, the lap record for Porsche 992 Carrera Cup is a 2 minute 2.999. And that's already now beaten here on iRacing by Troy Dolenschenk with that time of a 2 minute 2 seconds 0.354.
Frankie, that's 7/10. That is light years.
Yeah, that in, well, yes, in motorsport, that is light years. Troy Dolenschenk, the man that's done a 202.354. My goodness, as FC was saying earlier on, that is absolutely amazing. There's Andre Steenkamp. He's currently there in that 12th position with a 204.845 in the Batmobile, sitting out there in that 12th position. 19 cars out on track so far, doing the 10-minute qualifying with 7 minutes and 45 seconds done.
Yeah, riding on board there with Dalen Weiss, who's busy putting in his lap times there with just over 2 minutes left to go in this qualifying session for round number 3 of the Porsche 992 Cup, brought to you by Canvas Intelligence, Second Gear Productions, and of course Dr. Mike Verrier and the whole team from the iRacing South Africa group here. And Peter van Sale out there in his Porsche, and that is the number 14 Porsche of Peter van Sale. Let's see what time he can he improve on that 2 minute 5.306.
Robbie T's in there just behind him as well. Team Bolt, what a lovely color scheme that is, I must say. A big thanks to all the drivers doing lots of homework on their liveries and making their cars looking really good. A big thanks to the Big Five that I like to refer to them, the people that made it possible for us to get the right equipment together to bring you this production on Facebook and also out on 1080p on 60 frames per second in HD. So big thanks to the Big Five that have made this possible, and Jaco Steen that's done so much work in the background.
Well, there's a minute left to go in the qualifying session. We watch Wayne Cabbage currently out there in P11 with a 204.765 in the Mercury-sponsored Porsche. There is Carl McCarthy in the Sujin Properties machine. At this point in time, that Porsche sits out there in 19th and last position with a 208.111. So he's going to have to go somewhat if he wants to get himself off the bottom of the leaderboard. And we're going to have a look and see what he can do as he goes into turn number 1. He needs to do a whole lot better as the Carl McCarthy, because in general, he's doing pretty well in that top 10 in the leaderboard in general after 3 rounds. So going into, after 2 rounds. So going into round number 3, he doesn't want to start this one, FC, from the back of the grid.
Yeah, we'll have to see, can he improve on that time that he set. Previous time, 2 minute 8.811 there for Kyle McCarthy. It's going to have to do a lot to get that car up higher onto the grid. But at this stage of the fight, Troy Dolenschenk still the man to catch with that blinding time, as that is the end of qualifying. That is the end of the 10 minutes, and that will bring us our grid here for round number 3 of the MSA Porsche 992 Cup support event for the MSA iRacing Series for 2022.
Brought to you by the Canvas Intelligence Group, and Dollar Checker Nagel is on the front row of the grid, followed there by Montanari and Fourie, Stein and Boosie FC, then Steenkamp and Duplessis. They are on the first 4 rows of the grid.
Yeah, then Willem Pinaar and Yaz Samai in that 10th position, followed by Peter van Zyl, Herman Lazarus, Wayne Camich, Dalen Weiss, followed by Colin Plitt, Robbie Teings, Elroy Oliver, Leonardo Bakari, Kyle McCarthy, Mike Verrier, and Janeman Prius rounds off the grid here for this round of the Porsche 992 Cup support event.
21 cars, 11 rows of the grid for the Canvas Intelligence Porsche 992 Cup support event. That's going to be awesome, awesome stuff. 35 minutes of absolute action we're going to have. All the cars have gridded, and we are about, FC, to get this one underway shortly.
Yeah, about to get started here with this one. They're going to go down the main straight. Then it takes you into a long left-hander, turn number 1. Then it's going to take you all the way down the short straight there into a kink, which is referred to as turn number 2. Then turn 3 and 4 into another left-hander, which is turn 5. That leads you into a long bend, considered to be turn number 6. That's called Big Bend. Then it takes you all the way down to turn number 7, the hairpin, and then you go up to the Fangio straight, up into turn number 10, into a Collier, which is turn number 11, and then turn number 13, which is that massive right-hander in turn number 13. But the green lights go out, and we are racing here for the Porsche 992 Cup. As away they go, Scott Montanari sitting there in that second position, but Atti Nagel leads them into that first turn. Scott Montanari leads them. Atti Nagel, Jaco Steyn, Troy Dolenschink, as a lot of scuffling and a lot of contact between the drivers into turn number 1.
God, that is Nagel and Steyn that made contact, and they're dropping all the way down the leaderboard. Atti Nagel and Jaco Steyn, that's not what Atti and Jaco needed at this point in time. They dropped like flies all the way. They're sitting now. The one is in 18th position, and Nagel is right in there. Well, he's the one that's in 18th position at this point in time. Jaco Steyn is in 20th, so not exactly what the two of them wanted at the beginning, FC. Not even halfway through the opening lap.
Yeah, well, Troy Dolenschink was also involved in that one. He dropped all the way down to 19th. So a lot of guys that were caught out there into that turn number 1, but riding on board there with the man in 5th place, Willem Pinaar, Captain Slow in the 57 car, sitting in that 5th position. Right behind him, he's got the likes of Peter van Zyl. Then, problems for Gerald Fourie as he starts tumbling down the order.
Yeah, Gerald Fourie just tumbling down that leaderboard. Problems out there for Gerald Fourie as we keep an eye on the Castrol GTX Porsche of Willem Pinaar, car 57, sitting out there in P4 at this point in time. He's got Peter van Zyl right in there behind him, followed by Yasamai and Stephen Duplessis. They're all in this fight as we watch them just barrel down that straight into that right-left chicane.
Yeah, but now riding on board with your race leader, it is Scott Montanari in the 71 Porsche leading this race. There's a big scuffle on behind him there as Dario Bussi moves up on the inside of Andre Steenkamp into that second position. Peter van Zyl, he's managed to get past Willem Pinaar as Pinaar drops down to 5th place. Yaz Samai in there behind them, but just look at them go into turn number 1.
Well, they're all over the place. There's bollards all over the place there to keep these drivers in line. Ew, the tail gets lost. There's massive contact there. There is 2-3 cars that's involved in that pile-up coming out of the final corner, out of Le Mans, and now they make their way down the home straight, and cars already in the pit lane.
Yeah, cars already diving into the pit lane there to fix some of the damage that they've picked up. This opens the door for some of the drivers to get back into it. We see Troy Dolenschink, Atti Nagel, and Jaco Steyn already starting to move through the field. Dolenschink already back up into 10th position, but at the front it is Montanari and Dario Bussi that's battling it out there for 1st and 2nd. Yaz Samai finds himself in that 3rd position now, followed by Stephen Duplessis, and Wayne Camich has managed to work his way up into 5th place.
Here we've got the intervals. We can see where the fights are all out there on the track. Dario Bussi, here comes Yaz Samai. And Yasamai's got Stephen Duplessis all over him. There's only 0.6 of a second there between Samai and Stephen Duplessis. Then Wayne Camich, not too far behind him, is Elroy Oliver. And Oliver's got Troy Dolenschink, and Troy is only 0.5 of a second there behind Elroy Oliver.
Yeah, Troy managed to get past Kyle McCarthy there. Elroy managed to make that move stick a little bit earlier as Kyle and Robbie Teings now start battling it out there. but the camera on Elroy Olifi. But there's a big battle with Kyle McCarthy and Robbie Teings right on his case. These two are going to battle it out there. It's the Sujin car, the 64 car of McCarthy, and Robbie Teings is right there on his back bumper.
Watch out for Ati Nagel is also in that fight. He's only 6/10 of a second behind Robbie Teings. Ati Nagel beginning to work his way up the leaderboard once again. We have a replay here of Dr. Mike Verrier trying to move up on the inside, and there's contact. There is contact, and Mike Verrier loses a tail end going into that right-hander.
Yeah, but now it's back up to the front with Scott Montanari. Another replay here for them. Not sure what happened there. That's just the end of that incident. So here's a replay of what happened to Andre Steenkamp. He was involved with that one with Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike's tail end just stepping out in that bright blue Porsche and collecting Andre Steenkamp in that one as well.
Right, so Yasama is sitting there in that third place, and Dario Busi with the quickest lap out there with a 2:03.413 is Dario Busi. And Dario Busi is now all over the back of Scott Montanari. 6/10 of a second between Scott and Dario, fighting it out there for P1. The replay here at the Yakustein just went in too hot. That car wouldn't turn at all and just hammered the tire barrier on the left-hand side of the track.
Yeah, that's not how Yakustein would have wanted his race to continue out here. But we are almost 5 minutes into this 35-minute race, lap number 3, and Yaz Samai finds himself in that third position. He's about not that far off from Stephen Duplessis as the rest of them all battle it out there. Dario Busi starting to catch up to the man at the front. He's just a 0.3 of a second there behind Montanari, but Montanari now starting to stretch his legs a little bit.
In board there with the Stephen Duplessis sitting out there in P4 in car number 5. Goes all over the back of the number 7 car in P3 of Yaz Samai and Stephen Duplessis. There is there's about 4/10 of a second between Samai and Duplessis as they are fighting it out there for that third place on circuit, and not much that Samai can do to go after Busi, because he's 3.2 seconds behind Dario Busi. He has to try and hang on to that third position and keep Duplessis behind him, who's now only 3/10 of a second behind Samai.
Yeah, just look at how close that is. That is basically 3/10 of a second between two cars as they go down that long straight. Now here comes a move from Duplessis, catches the slipstream, gets out alongside him down the inside. They go side by side. Stephen Duplessis moving up into P3.
Yeah, moving up a position there and going very wide is Samai, so Samai will lose a bit of ground there to Duplessis. Will Duplessis pull away from Samai? We know how good Yaz Samai is. I don't think that Yaz Samai is going to take this one lying down. He's going to come right back at him again, Yaz Samai, but he hasn't picked up the slip on him as they go into that left-hander. So Samai sits out there just behind him, and Troy Dolacek with a 2:02.403 MC in P5. He is at this point in time the quickest driver out there.
Well, Troy Dolacek was our fastest qualifier out there, and he's a man on the move that needs to try and catch up back to the front of the pack, as he was involved in that turn 1 incident between himself and the likes of Ati Nagel and Yakustein and everybody that was in there. And they're going to definitely be the guys to be on the move throughout the pack as they try to fight their way back to the front.
Ati Nagel sitting out there in P9. He is 4/10 of a second behind Robbie Teens, and that's the two of them you see on screen there, going under the Budweiser Bridge into the hairpin, and or should I say into that right chicane, and then making their way down that straight. Ati Nagel sitting out there doing pretty well, but Dolacek is all over the back of Samai. Dolacek 6/10 of a second between himself and Yaz Samai in that 4th position. Do not count for Dolacek out of this one. If anybody can bring it home in P1 or in the top 3, it's definitely this young man, Troy Dolacek.
Well, Frankie, you've had lots of experience on Troy Dolacek and his younger brother as well in terms of karting, which was made up at Grand International Raceway. And FC, if you look at the way that Troy Dolacek works that steering wheel, his reflexes are so amazing. It's so smooth the way he feeds it in. It's so smooth the way he feeds it out. But his reflexes when the tail end gets away, anybody who's ever raced a Porsche, ask Captain Peter van der Spey, he'll tell you, it always feels like the car is trying to kill you. You can't go hard on the gas, and the front end leads the back end leads the front end very, very quickly. But let's go back to that in-car shot, and let's just study the hand movement of the young ace in the hands of Troy Dolenchek.
I was actually just about to comment on how smooth Troy Dolenchek is there, but also how snappy these Porsches are,
Very.
especially on this kind of surface. Not a proper tar surface, more like a concrete, asphalty type kind of surface that the Americans use on their roads on that side.
No doubt about it, but let's go back to the front end of the field. Scott Montanari, look at that, sawing away at the steering wheel. Dario Bussi, the man that's up front, but not by far.
Well, eventually Bussi got his nose ahead there of Montanari. Remember, we were saying early on that Dario was getting closer and closer and closer. Well, he has made the move there on Montanari, and he's made the move stick, and Dario sits out there in P1. Montanari 0.6 of a second behind him there in that second position. Troy Dolenchek also busy making a move. Dolenchek moving up on the inside, and Troy Dolenchek moving up another position.
So that was where the change was, with Troy Dolenchek moving up just one. But he's got a bit of a gap between himself and the tail end of Scott Montanari. Remember, 2.3, that's the figure. Troy Dolenchek to Scott Montanari, the man that's leading out this championship. He's got 26 points. Yaz Samai, that finds himself down in 5th position, presently just 1 point behind Scott Montanari in the championship. Ati Nagel, who finds himself down in 9th position on 22 points overall. And then Renier Hubert and Jaco Steyn, that had that terrible incident earlier on, they find themselves nowhere near where they need to be to hold on to their championship hopes, as Dario Bussi leads them out pretty smart.
Dario Bussi leads them out there here in the Canvas Intelligence Porsche 992 Cup support series here for the MSA iRacing series for 2022. Scott Montanari sitting there in 2nd position, almost dropping down to a 2nd behind Bussi, then Dolenchek, Stephen Duplessis, Yaz Samai, the next man that appears there in that skull Porsche. Then it is Elroy Oliver that sits there in that 6th place, followed by Wayne Cabbage.
Yeah, then it's a bit of a gap before we see Robbie Teens, and he is being kept honest there by Ati Nagel, who is a 0.6 of a second in there behind him. So Ati Nagel is on the case of Robbie Teens, just as Yaz Samai, for that matter, is all over the back end there of Stephen Duplessis. So the guys that are pretty high up in the championship scoring are right on the case of the drivers that is ahead of them, and they are busy cutting and carving their way through the field. Carl McCarthy is there in that 11th position, but he is being kept honest there by Janeman Prius. There's only 0.4 of a second between himself and Janeman Prius as they fight it out on track for P11.
Yeah, Janeman Prius, the in-car shot there from his Porsche, and he's sitting there on the tail of Kyle McCarthy as he desperately tries to catch up to that Shujin Porsche. Behind them, Dr. Mike Verrier, he's about a 1.5 seconds behind them in 13th position, with Andre Steenkamp, Leonardo Beccari. Herman Lazarus has had a very, very quiet race up until now. He's about 11 seconds adrift there of Beccari. Then Jaco Steyn in that 17th position, not managing to fight his way through the field as quickly as Nagel and Dolenchek. And behind him, Willem Pinaar, Pieter van Zyl, and Colin Plitt.
Yeah, we watch there Janeman Prius, and here he comes. Is he going to have a go at McCarthy? Well, he's showing his intentions there too. Carl McCarthy is right on his back bumper, and here comes the doc. Here comes Dr. Mike Vera and Andre Steenkamp, for that matter. So the 4 of them are going to be in the same picture pretty soon as Janeman. Here comes the doc. The doc has a lunge up on the inside, and he makes slight contact there with the Janeman Prius, and he has lost that position there to Steenkamp has Mike Verrier.
Yeah, Mike Verrier having a drop down there. But let's head back to the front of the field. It is Scott Montanari who's right there on the case of Dolenchek. Dolenchek has managed to get past. He's gone up into P2, and now he has to catch up there to Dario Bussi. Not too far off of him. That top 3 in an all-out battle for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd between Bussi, Dolenchek, and Montanari.
Well, and Frankie, look at that battle coming through behind. Let's just pick up that one. Yaz Samai in the top 5, starting to put pressure on Stephen Duplessis. Remember, Stephen Duplessis lost out 1 position not that long ago. Will not be keen to let the man that's lying 2nd overall by 1 point to Scott Montanari after 2 rounds. This is, in fact, round number 3 of 8 rounds of the Canvas Intelligence Porsche Cup Series. And, well, big thanks to MSA for coming on board and making it fun for all of us. Mike Berry, Andre Steenkamp, and Carl McCarthy are still in that battle further back.
Well, it's a heck of a fight going into that left-hander there. You just have a look and see. It's Prius, it's McCarthy, it's Steenkamp. It is very, they are having a major fight, the four of them, and there's nothing in it between the four of them. McCarthy is 6/10 of a second behind Prius. Steenkamp is a tenth of a second behind McCarthy, and Various 4/10 of a second behind Steenkamp. FC, it is all game on here, and they're fighting it out there for P11.
McCarthy almost made a serious error there. That is all position battles out there as Janeman Prius catch a little bit of a breather as he pulls away there from McCarthy. McCarthy in a bit of trouble there as Dr. Mike. It's McCarthy that runs wide. And that opens the door for Steenkamp and Mike Verrier to get through and now set their sights on Janeman Prius.
That's exactly what he doesn't need. But frankly, let's go back to the front end of the field. That fight between Dario Bussi, Troy Dolenchik, and Scott Montanari. Now the question to be asked between these three. Spoke just a little bit earlier on. Yep, it looks like Troy Dolenchik's just gone to the front. Troy Dolenchik has gone to the front. Let's have a look at that one. Yep, there it is.
Right up on the inside, right up against that wall, and he takes the lead away. Remember I said earlier on, don't count him out to get a top three or even win this one, and we do have 35 minutes of it. He is in the lead now from Bussi in second and Montanari in third. As a matter of fact, Bussi now only 3/10 of a second behind him. Scott Montanari is 1.1 seconds behind Dario Bussi, so Scott's going to have to get a move on, because these two boys from Cape Town are sitting out there in P1 and 2 at this point in time.
Let's just have a quick look at some of the off-tracks that have happened. Colin Plitt, one of the people that ran into a bit of a problem. Well, not a bit of a problem. He went to half a soccer field off the track. It's going to take a long time with that rear-wheel drive power to get back onto the circuit. Feel like forever, and that's what cost him lots and lots of ground, but a nice, safe recovery. Well done to him. Another man that ran into a problem out there was Leonardo Bakari. Let's see what he does. Well, just too late on the brakes.
Same place.
I must say, he feathered the accelerator very nicely to be able to get back as quick as what he did. And then FC, another one that ran into a problem was Peter van Sale, that also ran himself off circuit. And it just completely got away from him.
The moment that tail end snaps away from you, you are battling to save it and trying to get it back out there, and you turn that Porsche into probably one of the world's most expensive lawnmowers.
No doubt about it. Now, Frankie, keep in mind that having had that chat, and you were in on that chat as well earlier on today, having a chat with Jakob Stein, and Jakob Stein saying, you know what, Mike has wanted to set this up that it's very marginal. He feels that if you push hard all the way through, and I'm talking now by what I'm saying is what's been told me by Jakob Stein, who unfortunately had an unfortunate incident and dropped a long way down. He was saying, pace it, don't do a pit stop and make up that time with the pit stop. Looking at the likes of Troy Dolenchik, Dario Bussi, ex-Polar Cup South African champion, and Scott Montanari, who leads out on the series, if Jaco's calculations are correct, 1, 2, or all three, or any one of those might end up very close to the end doing a splash and dash. Don't count that one out. Yaz Samai in the top 5, but wanting to go forward.
Yeah, Yaz Samai is there, 9/10 of a second behind Stephen Duplessis. He's doing extremely well in that championship. He needs to get his nose ahead of Duplessis and move up into that 4th position to have a go at Dolenchik, Bussi, and Montanari. You can see him going through there, and he's crawling all over the back end there of Duplessis. He wants that 4th place. He needs that 4th position from Stephen Duplessis.
Yeah, he really needs to try and get the pass. There's a half a second there behind Duplessis is Yasamai in the number 7 Skull Porsche. Then behind him is Elroy Oliver that is dropping further and further down. He's about 2 seconds behind him now, but look at this Yasamai right up on that tail end of Stephen Duplessis. Can Duplessis stay out of trouble and hang on to that 4th place? Or is Yaz Samai going to start turning up the pressure?
Another man that's in the middle of a big fight there, Dylan Weiss, actually went on this morning and said, haven't had much time to practice, boys. Let's see how it goes. So Dylan Weiss expecting Frankie to be picking up pace as the race goes on. He is, in fact, into the top 10. He's got the comeback kid, Robbie Teens, right in front of him. And Ati Nagel under pressure there as well.
Yeah, that is the fight that I was pointing out there. That is the one behind Wayne Camage for that 7th position. It's Nagel, Teens and Weiss. Ati Nagel 4/10 of a second behind Wayne Camage. Robbie Teens 5/10 of a second behind Nagel. And then Dalen Weiss 5/10 of a second behind Teens as well. And these guys are fighting it out on track there for that 7th position. And there is nothing out there between them. Ati Nagel giving all that he can onto the back end there of Camage, and they're all stepping out of line, their own racing lines, trying to have a go with each other. As a matter of fact, Teens is trying his level best to hang on to that position, and he's going to lose out. Robbie Teens loses out there to Dalen Weiss.
Yeah, Dalen Weiss dropping in there behind Robbie Teens, but it is a four-way battle out there as Ati Nagel and Wayne Camage just gets a little bit of the breathing space there. Ooh, somebody made a mistake there. Who was that? It's that Janneman Prius. Prius runs very, very wide there, and that leaves the door wide open for Andre Steenkamp. There's going to be a battle down the main straight, but Prius just hangs on to that one.
Well, into that left-hander they go. It's Prius that's trying his level best to hang on to that one. Andre Steenkamp in that Batmobile sitting out there in that 12th position. 2/10 of a second between himself and Prius. He lunges up on the inside. Prius on the outside. Steenkamp on the inside. But it is Janneman Prius that for now holds on to that 11th position.
Yeah, Janneman Prius is making life very difficult for himself out there, taking some very weird lines, but manages to fend off the attacking Andre Steenkamp there in that 12th position as somebody had made a mistake somewhere. Wayne Camage turning a Porsche into another lawnmower.
Frankie, once again, we're seeing a circuit that is showing us numerous incidents all coming up at the same point on the circuit. Just shows you the difficulty. I take it those marks on the right-hand front fender, Frankie, not standard bodywork when you start a race?
No, I was looking at those marks on that right fender. There's the fuel tank you see just behind it. Remember, these Porsches have got rear-mounted engines, so that fuel tank will be sitting on the front end, and that is that fuel cover that you see there with some horrible marks there just above that wheel arch.
Let's go back to the front end of the field, and it's all about this man, Troy Dolenchik, and he has pulled out underneath Dario Bussi. Troy Dolenchik, let's have a look at the latest lap times, FC.
Yeah, latest lap times, the fastest so far would be in the hands there of Dolenchik, that 2 minutes 2.809, and closest to him would be the 204.2, if I'm not mistaken, there in the hands of Scott Montanari, who's the closest challenger out there on pure lap time for Troy Dolenchik.
And Mike Vera done a personal best of a 205.145. There's a green sector there by Mike Vera's name, so he's done a PB out there. But Troy Dolenchik, he is doing it all on his own. He is far ahead there of Dario Bussi that sits out there in second position, 4.1 seconds. 3 offs there for Dolenchik, 6 for Dario Bussi at this point in time, and then Herman Lazarus on 5. But it is Bussi FC that's made the most errors so far.
Yeah, Dario Bussi, the man that was leading this race for a bit there, was the man with the most offs. I think 17 gives you a drive-through penalty.
Normally around about 17 is a drive-through penalty. It changes from series to series. This one being the Canvas Intelligence sponsored series from Sebring International, round number 3 of 8 for those of you that have joined us during the course of the race. We are 11 laps in 22 minutes 17 seconds of a 35-minute race. The biggie, the GTE series, is about to come through after this one. The Canvas Intelligence MSA GTE series, round 3 of 8. That's the next one that we're going to be looking forward to. But right now, Yas Samai's got only one thing on his mind, and it's called Stephen Du Plessis.
Yeah, I'll be watching that one out. It's 0.8 of a second between Du Plessis and Samai. We were watching Robbie Teens early on. He's only 0.7 of a second there behind Ati Nagel. But Yasamai, I said early on, he needs to get his nose ahead of Du Plessis. And I must say this, don't know too much about Stephen Du Plessis, but what I do see out on circuit, he seems to be a pretty damn good iRacer, and he's right in there. It's no disgrace, FC, to have the likes of Dolacek and Boosie and Montanari ahead of you out on circuit.
Oh, definitely. Steven Duplessis can be super chuffed with what he's achieved out there, but it's not all over for him yet, as Yas Samai is sticking to him like stink on a warthog, basically, as we say down here in South Africa. But Yas Samai not giving Steven Duplessis any chance to take a bit of a breather or just relax a little bit, because he's got that number 7 Porsche stuck to the back of that Porsche of Duplessis.
Just outside of the top 10, there's another battle. We're going to have to stick with this one. It looks like he's going to go for it. Yes, Samai is closing on Steven Duplessis, but don't forget about that other battle, Andre Steenkamp and Janeman Prius. And in fact, we should have gone to that one, because that one has just happened. So let's have a look first of all at that passing maneuver, Andre Steenkamp on Janeman Prius. That's where that one took place. And then the one which had FC swallowing big gulps of air was Yas Samai and Steven Duplessis, and that passing maneuver looked like this.
Yeah, coming out of the S's there, and a beautiful pass up on the inside there of Duplessis is Yas Samai to put that number 7 up into 4th position.
Well. Now watch out for Elroy Oliver. He sits there in that 6th position. He's only 7/10 of a second behind Duplessis. So all of a sudden, Duplessis has got his hands full. He's going to try and get his nose ahead of Yas Samai again, but keep that same nose ahead of Elroy Oliver, and that's going to be a difficult task. So we're going to have to look out for that one, because that is the fight out there between Samai, Duplessis and Oliver, and they're fighting it out there for P4 as a Dolacek just runs away at the sharp end of the field, 5.8 seconds ahead there of Dario Bussi.
Yeah,
just FC, the nice thing for Troy Dolacek, have a look at the battle box on the right-hand side. 17th and 16th position, Peter van Zyl and Willem Pinaar, 23 and 41 seconds respectively between those two cars, that they are ahead of Troy Dolacek on the circuit, albeit on the same lap, but a long way back. So Troy Dolacek, as we watch him from the blind, let's go down to trackside like that. Troy Dolacek, in fact, has an open track in front of him right now, until such time as that man, Dario Bussi, can do anything about him, or that man, Scott Montanari, can do anything whatsoever. And then 8 seconds further back, that is a long way down for right now. That is Yas Samai, and Yas Samai has got nothing between himself and Scott Montanari but Steven Duplessis, and then Elroy Oliver in behind that. As we said, we don't know that much about Elroy Oliver, but we can tell you this boy can drive.
Yeah, well, the 3 of them are still going to battle it out there for that 4th, 5th, and 6th position. Yas Samai might have gotten past the likes there of Duplessis, but Duplessis not giving up on that position yet. He is now sticking to him and making life difficult for Samai, the same way Samai did for him a lap or 2 back. And now it's brought Elroy Oliver to the party.
As a matter of fact, FC Atinagel is ahead there of Robbie Teens. He's 1.2 seconds ahead of Robbie Teens, and we said earlier on that Atinagel needs to start working his way through the field. He was behind Robbie there for quite some time, and he's now put that 78 Porsche up in P8 ahead of the 107 Porsche of Teens that's dropped down into 9th position and 1.5 seconds behind Nagel.
Yeah, behind Nagel there is Robbie Teens. Then we got Wayne Camage in that next car, the 222 car. He sits there in the top 10, followed by Andre Steenkamp in P11, with Dr. Mike having fought his way back all the way into 12th position.
But that fight is still on there for that 4th position between Samai, Duplessis and Oliver. We'll have a look at that one right now. Here we go. There is Oliver coming through there. Woo, and that is all of them in the same frame. That's Yas Samai, Steven Duplessis and Elroy Oliver as they make their way into that left-hander. Oliver's got the best seat in the house because he's 10.1 seconds ahead of Dalen Weiss. He's not being pressurized by anybody out there. He's Elroy Oliver, so he can relax basically and get the focus down and hunt down Samai and Duplessis ahead of him.
Yeah, as they start hunting down the guys ahead of them there, Elroy Oliver, he's starting to like his chances in this one. As long as he can stick with them and try and force one of them into a mistake, then things can start coming together here for him as they go into turn number 7. Into the hairpin they go now. That is Yas Samai, Steven Duplessis and Elroy Oliver. Oliver now starting to apply a lot of pressure there on Duplessis, as Duplessis made a small mistake and he drops back from Yas Samai.
Yeah, well, he ran pretty wide. That's why he's got Olive all over his back bumper there. The top 14 cars have not made pit stops yet. That's only the guys that ran into problems. Jacques Stein ran into issues. Willem Pienaars made a pit stop. Peter van Zyl was also a driver that had problems out there. And Lazarus has made a pit stop as well as Sandro Bakari. So, but yeah, your top 13, 14 drivers at this point in time has not hit the pit lane yet. And 28 minutes done. I don't think all of them are going to make pit stops. I think they're going to push it through FC until the checkered flag.
Well,
We had somebody that ran out of fuel in season 1 on the very last lap. We always
Sandro Bakari.
and that coined the phrase let's do a Sandro. And we always thought, yeah, well, you know, these guys talk about how much fuel and how far it goes and what have you, and it actually came to play, and that was brought into being by Dr. Mike Berrier. And that's why Jaco was saying he thinks that Mike has made this one very, very marginal. And looking at the gaps between the front runners, if one goes in and the other one doesn't, it's going to change the point situation. And I remember Scott Montanari in third position, leading out from Yas Samai on the points. So literally 1 point between them on the log, 1 point between them as they are out there on circuit. Let's go back to that Elroy Oliver battle.
Well, Dalen Weiss has just been into the pits. Remember, we were saying early on that the top 14 hasn't pitted, and he has made his way into the pit area, has Dalen Weiss. But Elroy Oliver is all over the back of him. There you see the pit stop of Dalen Weiss. So he's the first driver FC in the top 10 to blink.
Well, I'm going to hazard a guess. I wanted to actually say, just before you cut back to that battle of Elroy Oliver, that I have a feeling that at least your top 10 will have to dive into the pits, because a lot of them are guys that have actually fought their way from the back after being involved in incidents, and someone like Troy Dolenschenk who's put in monster lap after monster lap and has pulled away from the whole pack. I have a feeling that in that top 10 where you had all those battles and the guys working their way through the field, you're going to have people that are going to have to pit.
The pressure has been on, and remember, Frankie, we said, remember that, I think it was 2.3 if I remember correctly, the gap between Dario Bussi and Troy Dolenschik. Look at that now. Troy has made this one his own.
But this is what I was going to say. He pushed as hard as he could to get there, FC. Now, either he will do what you say, or he's going to lift off slightly and try and conserve fuel, because he knew that he pushed hard to get there, and then towards the end stomp.
It's too late. He has to dive in.
That because it proves me completely wrong. And FC,
I knew it.
You were 100% correct. Bang into the pits goes.
Undercut, overcut, who knows?
You were 100% right.
Well, here comes Bussi and Montanari. They're going to fly past him now. And look at this, Montanari coming back at Bussi as they come down the main straight. And there might even be a battle between Bussi and Montanari as Stephen Duplessis also dives into the pits.
So, yeah, as it was said earlier, Mike has worked this one out very nicely indeed. It will be a splash and dash for these guys. So, Scott is now 4/10 of a second behind Dario Bussi. Remember that the two of them and Yas Samai and Elroy Oliver, they have not hit pit lane yet. Will they prove me right, or will they prove FC right? And time will tell as Duplessis makes his way out of pit lane.
But we just got it on screen there. Scott Montanari retakes the lead of this race ahead of Dario Bussi. Bussi must have made a mistake somewhere, or he's busy running out of a fuel, because look at how he is dropping back from Montanari. That was a big, big pass there for Montanari, who reclaims the lead of this race. Bussi down in second, then Yas Samai, who's worked his way up into P3. Then Elroy Oliver. Look at them all diving into the pits now. Dr. Mike busy making his way out of the pits. And who's a Janeman Prius that also makes his way out of pit lane.
This is what makes this thing so interesting. There's different scenarios they can do. Am I right? Are you right? One of us is right, one of us is wrong. And that's what makes this thing so interesting, because you don't quite know what these drivers are going to do next. However, Montanari is way down the road, but Dario Bussi, he's coming back there at Yas Samai. There's 2.8 seconds between Montanari and Samai. but there is now only 1.1 seconds between Samai and Busi out there.
Frankie, I have a feeling Dario Busi miscalculated. He's doing a massive amount of fuel saving just to be able to get back to the pits. I have a feeling because he's dropped off way on the pace.
Yeah.
I mean, Montanari pulled away from him like mad. Then Yaz Samai got past him. He's already a second and a half behind Samai as they come down the Ullman Straight into Sunset Bend is Dario Busi. Don't be surprised if he dives into the pits now.
Well, what happens now with Scott? Yes.
Yeah, there he goes. There he goes.
Somebody put a cone there. What a stupid place to put a cone. Bang! Into the pit he goes. Dario Busi's into the pit lane, and it looks like Alroy Oliver's in as well. Scott Montanari, the man that leads the championship on 26 points. Where is he? He has gone through. Scott Montanari on 33 minutes out of 35. Can he do 1.5 laps more, take the win, and extend the championship? Or is it all going to turn to fresh air, a la no fuel on board?
Robbie Teams is also in pit lane for that matter, and so is Wayne Cammage. They're all making their way into the pit area. It's too late now for Montanari and Samai. My opinion, too late for these two drivers to make pit stops now, FC. There's 50 seconds left before the checkered flag comes out. It is take the gamble and go for broke.
100% there, as we've got about 40 seconds left in this race. Scott Montanari has timed it perfectly. Didn't do anything major, kept all the wheels in the right places, dropped back when he had to drop back, and that might just play into his favor. Troy Dolenshenk, he tried to move, had to charge extremely hard from the back of the pack, moved himself up into the lead, started pulling away, but then had to stop for fuel. But he's worked his way back up into third place. But I think Scott Montanari, and definitely one of my drivers of the day, Yaz Samai, in second position.
I think Nagel in P4 has not made a pit stop.
And Mike Berrier dropping down, Frankie.
Yeah, well, Nagel cannot make a pit stop now. He has got to just go for gold and hope that he can hang on to that fourth position. But FC, it's nearly checkered flag time for race leader Scott Montanari.
Yeah, it is a time on the race as they come down that long Ullman Straight. And now they're going to head into Sunset Bend. That is the last corner, turn number 17. They're going to exit that corner underneath the bridge, and they're going to cross the start-finish line. Down the main straight they go. Well done. Take a bow, Scott Montanari in P1.
And Yasamai coming home in second, and they did it. They did not need to make a pit stop. Dolacek comes home in third, and Ati Nagel has made it as well in P4 without having to do a pit stop.
Yeah, I think the man coming around Sunset Bend now out onto the main straight. He's going to cross the start-finish line now. As Frankie said, there's no pit stop necessary for him. He managed to do it all there after being involved in that turn one tussle. Then the next man that'll come through, Stephen Duplessis. He had a pretty good race out there as well, as somebody kicked up a lot of smoke there. But the next man through, the Teens Bolt Porsche of Robbie Teens as he goes into the final corner.
He's got Dylan Weiss all over his back bumper there, 8/10 of a second between the two of them. But Robbie Teens has done enough to finish there in that sixth position ahead of Dylan Weiss that finishes there in P7. Wayne Cabbage will come through in P8, 5.2 seconds behind Dylan Weiss, and only then in that ninth position, 11.2 seconds behind Cabbage, just in the top 10 is Dario Busi.
Yeah, Dario Busi got it all wrong on the strategy there. Janeman Prius, the next man through in the top 10, followed by Willem Pinaar. Then Mike Verrier just passed Andre Steenkamp just before the start-finish line.
Juice.
Steenkamp ran out of juice. Then behind Steenkamp, Jaco Steyn. Next man that'll come through is the number 14 car there of Peter van Zyl. He's going to come through the final corner there and out onto the main straight to come and finish his race there in 15th position, followed by Kyle McCarthy and Elroy Oliver.
And they are the only 17 cars out there on the lead lap. There is Kyle McCarthy coming to the checkered flag in 16th position, 21 seconds behind Peter van Zyl. And the last car on the lead lap, we'll see him shortly as we still watch McCarthy head towards the checkered flag, is Elroy Oliver. Elroy Oliver is 17 seconds. There you see him come towards us now. Oliver will finish in P17 on the lead lap and 17 seconds behind 16th place man Carl McCarthy.
Yeah, a very, very badly timed pit stop there for him. That's dropped him all the way down the field. But I would have to say, well done, Scott Montanari. He did it all right. But one of the biggest winners out there, Yaz Samai, one of the hardest chargers out there, Troy Dolenchik, Ati Nachel, and Stephen Duplessis running off that top 4.
Well, that was something else. So, the man that was leading the championship with 26 points, Scott Montanari, adds a full house of points to that. Yasamai, the man that was in second position on the series so far, comes through in a second position, and nothing wrong with that. The man that was in third position, Ati Nachel, finds himself down in fourth place, only being beaten out there by Troy Dolenchik, who is a long way further down, not inside of the top 10 in the championship itself. And then a Stephen Duplessis that also finds himself outside of the top 10 going into this one, finds himself rounding out the top 5, Frankie.
Yeah, then Robbie Teams in that 6th position, Dylan Weiss in P7, Wayne Camich P8, Dario Busi P9, Ganamam Prius P10, and FC, as I said earlier on, only 17 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest losers out there in this race today was Dario Busi. He led the race for quite a chunk as well, and then all of a sudden realized, hang on, I'm running out of fuel. I have to fuel save a hell of a lot, and had to back way off, and that's dropped him all the way down into that 9th position, where he eventually managed to get into the pits. And Andre Steenkamp lost a position on the start-finish line to Mike Verrier, also running out of fuel.
Your driver of the day?
My driver of the day definitely has to be Yaz Samai.
Yeah, well, my bad luck of the day will go to Jaco Steyn.
No doubt.
He was right in there, and he finished on the lead lap, but I mean, he doesn't want to finish in 14th position. So that is my bad luck of the day for the Porsche 992 Cup, proudly brought to you by the Canvas Intelligence Group and MSA, and then Second Gear Talk Show and Second Gear Productions.
Wow, what a brilliant race that was. The round number 3 of 8 in total. I think it was absolutely brilliant, and a massive big thank you to Jaco Steyn for putting this lot together in conjunction with Mike Verrier, Canvas Intelligence coming on board and making it all possible for us as well. So we're going to go off air for a short period of time. We're not going to drop the link. We will keep the link running, and we will be coming back to you with our main race of the day, the Canvas Intelligence MSA GTE series, also round 3 of 8. That practice session has been running since 10 past 7 and will carry on until 10 to 8. So we will be coming back to you at around about 10 to 8, and then we will bring you the qualifying session from 10 to 8 until 8 o'clock, and then a 90-minute race after that. Don't strail, go away, folks. We'll be back soon. right, gents, we're right back with you once again, and this is actually the biggie. This is the one everybody's been waiting for. For myself, Gary Fleming, good evening to you, one and all, on behalf of Gary Fleming's Second Gear Talk Show and the Second Gear Production Studio. Big hello and welcome. Joining us, Mike Side, for this one, the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Innes. Frankie, good evening to you.
G'day Gary, g'day FC Nevote, and a big thanks to the Canvas Intelligence Company for this one. FC, you can go through the conditions here at Sebring International Raceway.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Welcome from my side as well. Lovely to be back here for round number 3 of 8 of the Canvas Intelligence MSA GTE series. Coming to you live from the Sebring International Raceway from Sebring in Florida. Track length 5.79 kilometers. Current temperature there 24 degrees with an altitude of 19 meters above sea level, with the air temperature currently at 21 degrees. 60% chance of precipitation. Cloudy conditions with a wind of about 6 kilometers an hour blowing at the track.
Well, Frankie, this the GTE series, the one that was offered by Dr. Mike Berrier to Motorsport South Africa, saying let's use this for the first season. It's a pretty popular series. It's a pretty popular type of motor car, going through most of the iconic circuits in the world. Sebring International, the one that we are on this evening for the Porsche Cup, and now also for the GTE series. So that points that we've got there, I think that's going to change quite a bit. Within the last 15 minutes, we found out that there is not going to be the log leader out there tonight. Berberski's not going to make it.
Yeah, well, he currently leads on 51 points. He's going to lose that one. Julian Familiaris is second there on 38. Byron Mitchell on 33. Andrew Brown on 29. Timmy Haynes on 21. Keegan Masters on 19. Andrew Thomas on 18. Keegan Campos on 18, Luke Lucchesi on 18, and Josh Kutzer on 17. So from Josh Kutzer all the way up to basically Andrew Brown, there really isn't much in it. As a matter of fact, from P5 all the way to P10, there's only about 5 points in it. But yes, as you were saying, Jared Berberski won't be racing this evening, and it's going to give his championship chances a serious knock, FC.
Well, FC, you also watched the qualifying that went down to be able to be eligible for this MSA Canvas Intelligence GTE series, the first one ever in the history of iRacing in South Africa. And it was in excess of 60 people that wanted to get in. In fact, the guys that you saw in the Porsche Cup were the next batch of top qualifiers nationally in South Africa. And keeping in mind there's almost 400 registered iRacers in South African iRacing as such that are eligible. So only the top, very much top echelon that's got through to this.
Yeah, look, when they announced the series, they said, you know, it's open to everybody to try and enter, and then the entry started flooding in, and they said, hang on, we're going to have to limit this. We can only allow 40 drivers into the championship, and that's how the GT or the Porsche Cup was born, as a way of saying to the guys that, you know, thanks for being interested, but we can only accommodate all of you. But the first times have been set. Jason could see the first man out there front row. Hubert has gone fastest with a 155, but Byron Mitchell just beat that by 0.2 of a second.
Ooh, look at those names.
Man.
Jeffrey Kruger's in there as well, and Jeffrey just drops all the way down the board. Byron Mitchell with a 155.6. Francois Hubert with a 155.8. Johan Fourie with a 155.9. Julian 156. Yuri Swart as well, 156.1. Look at those names, FC. Jason Kutsia, those top 6 drivers. Oh my goodness. And Bradley Liebenberg is in there as well. Campos is down in 11th. 12th now. Shorter is there in 13th position. Jeffrey Kruger was in that top 3. He's down in P16 with a 157.166. And he's in pit lane.
And look at the name board. 4th place, Mr. Look easy. And he finds himself so far on the 2nd row of the grid. Welcome, everybody. We hope you enjoy your stay. This is the Canvas Intelligence GTE series. We've waited so long for this. We've practiced, we've learned, we've bought computers, we've bought programs, we've bought microphones. The guys have spent hundreds of hours and thousands of rands on their setups and just gone into the man cave, switched off from the family, pay the garden services, get out there and go and practice. And this is where it culminates. Now, Frankie, you've had lots of opportunity to comment on this man's racing out on main circuit. Byron Mitchell, so far, finds himself on the front row of the grid. But the man that's always in black and white, is he doing it tonight as well? Well, just about. The Wild Rose Gin colors on that motor car. Francois Hubert once again on the front row of the grid. And the two guys that FC, I believe, are the most likely to work their way through a pack at this point on the second row of the grid, that being Johan Fourie and Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
I love how the Mr. was added there to Luke Lucchesi's name on the log.
He's good at cheat, eh?
I think he did it without Gaku's staying name, but I'll refer to him as Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
Hang
no
on.
doubt about it. Julian Familiaris puts up his time.
Julian Familiaris put up a time of 1:56, but Johan Fourie went faster, and he is now in second position behind Byron Mitchell as the guys now start to park off and run out of laps to try and improve their times.
Well, as we said, Frankie, and for those who watch on a regular basis, you've got 2 flying laps, and once your 2 flying laps is up, that is it. The computer kicks you off and says, thank you very much. Another big name that's out there, but a long way down. Campos Transport, Keegan Campos, outside of the top 10.
In the Ferrari, sitting out there in that 13th position in Ferrari number 31 with a 156.522. That's not where Keegan Campos wanted to be. And Josh Kutzer, 156.523 behind Keegan. He is there in that 14th position. Is Josh Kutzer, a man that did international karting in Europe a couple of years ago, and does not want to be in P14. But Gary, the leader, 155.5, and all the way down to 157. It's about 3 seconds. That's
Thanks.
all in for the top 28. It's crazy.
Interesting thing to note, chaps, we picked it up in the Porsche Cup as well, the quality of our South African iRacers. If you go and look at the actual lap times from Sebring, in the Porsches, the lap record was held by Sebastian Prio with a 2-minute 0.02.999, and Troy Dolenschink actually qualified on a 2:02.08 something. And if you look at the GTE class, the lap record held by Antonio Garcia, and that record was set up with a Chevrolet Corvette, that was a 1-minute 55.642. Already 1/10 of a second quicker is Byron Mitchell.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be amazing stuff out there. We look at Willem Botha. He's in the Ford GT, making his way into a pit lane. And there's Noah Hendricks making his way around. Another top driver finds himself all the way down in 23rd position. But guys, look at the times on that leaderboard and scan your eyes all the way down to 30th position. I tell you what, it's under 3 seconds. It's crazy.
It's kind of eye candy. The likes of Sandro Bakari, who is very, very capable, finds himself at the tail end of the field. And just about everybody has done their allotted laps already. We are 9 minutes 10 into the 10 minutes. And from there on out, well, you can just as well go and park it. Nothing further is going to happen from there. So, wow, I tell you what, this is going to be brilliant. So for those of you that have just joined us, this is where we are. It's the Canvas Intelligence MSA series of 2022. It's round number 3 of 8 rounds. We're at the Sebring International Raceway, one of the very well-known circuits which has been chosen by Mike Verrier in conjunction with Jaco Steyn for this specific series. And, well, in fact, FC, we've got MSA officials on board, and they are on their own soundtrack, and they will be making decisions during the course of the race and imposing whatever they feel would be the correct decisions on these different drivers as things happen during the course of the race itself. So as we get to the point where we can start gridding, let's have a look at that grid.
Yeah, kicking it off in pole position, Byron Mitchell, alongside him, Johan Fourie. Row number 2, Francois Hubert, Julian Familiaris. Keegan Master sits there in P5 with Luke Lucchesi on his outside. Then Yuri Swart and Luke King finish up that 4th row, followed by Jason Kutsia and Leighton Fourie rounding off your top 10.
Yes, and Jacques Botha and Peter Hubert, followed there by Brad Liebenberg, Keegan Campos, Josh Kutzer, Willem Botha, Matt Shorter, Andrew Brown, Rudy Murray, Noah Hendricks FC. It just carries on.
Yeah, behind them, starting off in 21st, Jan Sparmers, Johan Engelbrecht, Nati Msimanga, Zach Foster's in there, Jeffrey Kruger in P25, Peter van der Spey, the Captain Pete out there in 26th, then Graham Stephen, Swayce Hubert, John T. Weiss, and Raymond Duggan rounds off your top 30.
Andrew Thomas, Renier Hubert, Sandro Bakari, and Corne Briat. 34 cars out there. Oh my goodness. And all 34 is split by 3 seconds maximum. It's going to be hectic when those lights go off.
And this championship is blown wide open because your championship leader not even in the race today.
Yes, we weren't given a reason why, but I'm sure it must be for very good reason. DAW man himself not being able to be out there. But if you think that every single one of these guys qualified quicker than every single one of the superstars that you saw in the Porsche Cup, that just shows to you the value of what we've got out there. Utterly amazing. I think this is going to be brilliant. Folks, I'm going to apologize now for any shouting we're going to do in the next 15 or 20 minutes because I think this is going to be game on. What a field.
It is unreal. It's just unbelievable. Take a look at that 31 hotshots standing out there, and they are going to go to war very soon.
You've got Porsches, you've got BMWs, you've got Ferraris. I haven't seen any of the other cars. I think
there's a Ford.
Is there a Ford? Oh my goodness, there's a Ford as well. Okay, they are off the line. This is going to be a rolling start. And let's see what's going to happen. Byron Mitchell, Johan Ferry, Francois Hubert, Julian Familiaris, Keegan Masters, Yuri Swart, Luke Lucchesi, all of them in there. Let's have a look and see what happens here in round number 3 of 22.
You say Mr. Luke Lucchesi, look a bit further down in 30th. There's a Mr. Raymond Duggan as well.
Oh yes.
Well, Raymond Duggan has done very well. He has the right to call himself Mr. Raymond Duggan. He has come along so well. But FC, the other thing which has become very notable is the pride that these guys have got in their motor cars and the way that they've gone about the livery. And some amazing liveries that the guys have spent hours and hours to come up with as they work their way around. Look at that field. Well, we've got 30 of them out there that we can see. There is, in fact, 34 cars out on circuit.
Well, as the safety car leads them around under the Budweiser Bridge they go. And it is almost time when two tribes go to war. When 30 odd drivers go to war, and this is exactly what's going to happen shortly.
Is that the Ford that you were speaking about, Frankie?
Well, the war's gonna.
I think it's Willem Botha that's got the Ford GT, if I'm not mistaken.
This is going to be something else. The hearts must be pounding. A lot of these guys have had opportunity in real life to race against one another. A lot of them have not had the opportunity in real life to race against the rest of the guys around them, because in fact they are iRacers and not real life racers as such. In general, you find that the front echelon is people that are lifetime racers and of the best out there. And remember, this whole lot was based on Western Province Sports and GT from Crosley International Raceway right down here in the Western Cape in Cape Town.
You do not, FC, want to be in that mid-pack when they go into turn number 1. You want to be at the sharp end of the field, or you want to be at the back of the field, just hanging down and hanging back a little bit, because if you're in that mid-back and things go pear-shaped, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers, maybe even more, could find themselves in a lot of trouble.
I'll tell you, I don't want to be in the pace car, because Byron Mitchell's sticking his nose up the inside of the pace car every so often. But let's have a look here as the guys go into that what's known as the Ullman Straight. That is the final straight that you get before you head into turn number 17, Sunset Bend, and then start your flying lap around or down the main straight.
Did you see Johan Ferry also had a look there? He's probably saying, like he had F1 saying, the pace car's going too slow.
Well, this means when they come around Sunset Bend, that pace car is going to peel off, and we will be racing here at Sebring International Raceway in Florida, USA, for the MSA Canvas Intelligence GTE Series.
Well, I think FC, you must start at your favorite American style when those lights go off. Here we go.
Here we go, into through the final corner they come now. That is Sunset Bend onto the main straight, and let's have a look. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, folks. Byron Mitchell takes them off the line with Johan Ferry, Francois Hubert, Julian Familiaris, Keegan Masters, Yuri Swart, Luke Lucchesi, all of them in there. Masters already past Familiaris. Familiaris drops down there. Luke King. Oh, there's major contact as some of the cars go flying all over the show. But that was a major, major impact between a Ferrari and a Porsche.
Well, Willem Burt indeed is the man out there in that Ford GT, making his way around. Luke King sits out in that 8th position. Look at this, it's one long high-speed train that's making its way into that right-hander under the Budweiser Bridge. But it's Mitchell from Fourie, from Hubert. That is the first three at this point in time. Luke Lucchesi sits out there in that 7th position. The intervals between these drivers, there's nothing because they're chopping and changing positions all the time as they go through that. Oh, there's another massive off there going into that last of that right-hander in that kink.
Yeah, everybody needing to duck left, right and centre there to try and miss some of those cars bundled up there. But Johan Ferry's the man that's got to catch Byron Mitchell at the front end of the field. Then it's Francois Hubert, Keegan Masters. Then it is Julian Familiaris, Yuri Swart, Luke Lucchesi, Luke King, Jacques Witter and Brad Liebenberg rounding off your top 10.
That is the top 10. And then Josh Kutzer in that 11th position. He's 0.3 of a second in there behind Bradley Liebenberg. The fight is on. Look at those yellow intervals all the way down from P1 right down to P16 at this point in time. There is nothing between them. Matt Shorter losing the circuit there ever so slightly, gets back onto the track once again as they make their way down that main straight. But it's all about Byron Mitchell. He's nearly a second ahead there of Johan Ferry in the Mike Ferry and Sons transport car in that 2nd position. Then it is Francois Hubert in that 3rd position. He's 0.9 of a second behind Johan Ferry. Then it's Keegan Masters in there, and he is only 0.3 of a second behind Hubert, and the quickest lap out there, 1:59.179 FC for Byron Mitchell.
Yeah, Byron Mitchell sitting that fastest lap. That shows he's got still quite a bit of fuel left in this race there. An hour 30 minutes for this race of the Sebring International round of the GTE MSA series, brought to you by Canvas Intelligence. Graham Stephen, the man that we usually see a lot higher up in the field in the Master Series, he finds himself there in 18th position, and he is just ahead there of Jonty Weiss, about 2 seconds ahead of Jonty Weiss. But back at the front of the field, it is Mitchell, Fourie, Hubert, Masters, Familiaris and Yuri Swart.
Followed there by Luke Lucchesi, Luke King, Jacques Witter, Brad Liebenberg, Josh Kutzer and Keegan Campos. That is those top dozen cars out there, and there is nothing between them. It's only basically Ferry that's 1.2 seconds behind Mitchell, and Francois Hubert that's just over a second behind Johan Ferry. But riveted onto the back end of Francois Hubert are 7, 8, 9 other hot shots as we keep an eye on the leader. Byron Mitchell 1.3 seconds ahead of second place man Johan Ferry.
Yeah, Ferry is at second place with Francois Hubert in that BMW, the Wild Rose Gin, Craft Gin, BMW in 3rd position, followed by Keegan Masters, Julian Familiaris, Yuri Swart, Lucchesi now applying a lot of pressure there to Yuri Swart. He's stuck right to that back bumper of that BMW of Swart. He's going to he catches the slipstream. He tries to go left, right, but he has to stomp on the brakes before he can make a move.
And to back out of that one, going under the bridge there, otherwise he would hit the back of that BMW. Would Luke Lucchesi 0.2 of a second behind Swart. 0.2 of a second means you can cover them with a handkerchief. There is nothing between Swart and Lucchesi. Under the Chevrolet bridge they go now into that left-hander. Lucchesi is busy walking around all over the place. He wants to get his nose through there on Yuri Swart, who in turn is only 0.8 of a second behind Familiaris.
Yeah, Familiaris sitting there in that 5th position. Then Swart, Lucchesi. Luke King is not too far adrift there from Lucchesi either. So Lucchesi can't afford to make a mistake because he's got Luke King waiting to pounce there behind him, and Jacques Witter. All of them, just look at that high-speed train behind them. Witter, Brad Liebenberg, and then Keegan Campos, the next man in that train.
And there's a bit of a gap between himself and Peter Hubert, followed there by Rudy Murray, who in turn has got Andrew Brown all over him. But my word, what a rumble in the jungle we've got out there. And we've only done almost 5 minutes of this one as we ride on board with 10th place man, car number 25, Bradley Liebenberg, 6/10 of a second behind the man in P9, namely Jacques Witter.
Yeah, a lot of position swaps happening there as Rudy Murray starts tumbling down the order. He must have made a mistake somewhere, but Brad Liebenberg still holding on to that 10th position in that Ferrari, beautiful Ferrari of Brad Liebenberg in that 10th place. Look, let's have a look at some of the other battles that are happening throughout the circuit there as Andrew Brown manages to get past Matt Shorter for 13th position, but Shorter comes right back at him and regains that 13th position.
Let's have a look at some of the incidents that have happened so far. This is what happened to Jan Spammers, and that's what caused him the unnecessary off. Oh, that was quite a big one for Jan Spammers. Peter van der Spey also involved in an incident a little bit earlier on, and as they come down under the brakes, there's not a lot of space between them whatsoever, and that was that incident that we spoke about, and that was Peter van der Spey that found himself right in the middle of that. Also involved in that crash was Zach Forster, so let's see how he was affected by that one. There's Zach Forster. It's already happened in front of him. Where does he go? He's got nowhere to go, and bang, into the pile up he goes. And then once again, Jan Spammers found himself in the middle of that one. Let's see how Jan was affected by that beautiful delivery on that motor car, and that's where that initial turnaround started. That was one of the other incidents that we did see. And we also had Andrew Thomas that had an incident a little bit earlier on. That was where he got involved over there, and Jan Spammers eventually decided that he was going to go straight back to the pits. That's why he dropped so far down. Willem Botha also getting himself into a little bit of an incident, and that was where Willem lost his time. And Frankie, you spoke about Leighton Ferree. That incident with Leighton Ferree, that is what happened to him, just picking up a little bit too much grass. He brings it back very, very nicely. And then the Ironman, Jason Kutsia, was also involved in an incident. And Jason Kutsia, let's see exactly what happened with Jason. Oh, look at the damage on the back of that motor car. And yeah, that explains why things ain't going so well for him. Josh Kutzer, that you spoke about FC a bit earlier on, Josh Kutzer also found himself having a bit of an incident, and that cost him a fair amount of ground as well. Well, having looked at all of those incidents, let's go back to the front end of the field. And it's not, Frankie, Johan Ferree for once. It is Byron Mitchell.
Yeah, Byron Mitchell indeed, busy leading this one. Under the Budweiser Bridge goes your race leader, Byron Mitchell. And that was a replay that we are busy looking at there at Johan Ferree. Johan Ferree coming through there, all seems to be okay. But yes, Mitchell is ahead of Ferree by 1.6 seconds, and he has got Francois Hubert all over his back bumper. Has Johan Ferree. There's only 6/10 of a second between himself and Francois Hubert, who in turn has got Keegan Masters right on his case there. 2/10 of a second between Hubert and Masters, and Familiaris in P5 now. Only 8/10 of a second between himself and Familiaris. And then there's almost a second gap between Julian and Yuri Umpiswa.
Yeah, well, look, this high-speed train here all the way from second down to about 8th, 9th. That is one fast train. You can't afford to make a single mistake, because anybody from Ferree, Hubert, Masters, Familiaris, Swart, Lucchesi, King, Botha, Liebenberg, all of them just waiting there to pounce and try and move up a position to score maximum points.
Frankie, looking at the bottom end of the field, some of the big names that you find right at the bottom of the field due to unforeseen circumstances, some biggies down at the bottom.
There's a lovely fight for that 23rd, make it 22nd position, because Rudy Moret's got a couple of those big hitters in there behind him. Sandro Bakar is right in there behind him. So is Sway Schubert, Zach Forster. I mean, these are well-known names in SA real-time and I-time racing, and they are all the way down there fighting it out for that 22nd position.
Going back up towards the front end of the field, it looks like Luke King is having the drive of his life, looking in that 8th position, and he is at the tail end of that other high-speed train running from Francois Hubert. Keegan Masters from that position, original grid position of he's doing very well up into third from Julian Familiaris. Umpi Swart outside of the top 6. Mr. Luke Lucchese ahead of Luke King.
And a PB there, FC4, Luke Lucchese, 156.516, and he has got that man, Gary, that Gary spoke about. Luke King, only 8/10 of a second in there behind him. Luke Lucchese going through there, and Lucchese is on the case of the Umpini Racing BMW of Yuri Swart. Yuri in P6, Luke out there in P7, and Luke is now just over a second ahead there of the other Luke, namely Luke King.
Luke, there is Luke.
Luke.
But yeah, riding on board there with Luke Lucchese, he is sticking to that BMW of Umpi Swart like nothing else we've seen in this race before. Lucchese just waiting to get a little bit closer to try and get his nose up on the inside. Umpi Swart, not an easy guy to get past. He's not going to make a mistake all that easy, so you're going to have to try and catch him on pure pace.
Well, we know what Luke Lucchese can do out there in main circuit racing. We know what Yuri Swart can do. You were talking about Umpi now. And Umpi races GTI Challenge Class A. And he's had many dices out there with the likes of Marco Busi and people like Janu van der Westhuizen. And he is a hard man to overtake. And he doesn't crack under pressure. He'll give you enough room to operate, but he's not going to snap under pressure, Umpi Swart. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, going down onto the straight there, that final straightaway before you get to turn number 17, the Ullman Straight. As they dash down there, it's a long straight, one of the longest straights in this race. And then it's all of a sudden a hard break into that turn number 17, Sunset Bend. And then you've got to bet hard onto the accelerator again, coming out of that corner onto the main straight as you come flying past the pit boxes and start another lap.
Yeah, Umpi only 7/10 of a second behind Familiaris as Umpi Swart going through, and he has still got Lucchese all on his back bumper. Then you see Familiaris, then it's a bit of a gap. Then you see Umpi, then right on his case is Luke going into that left-hander. Luke Lucchese once through. Mr. Lucchese says, I'm coming for you, Mr. Swart. And Mr. Swart says, well, you can do as much as you can, whatever you can. I'm not going to crack. I'm not going to give the 6th position away to you, Luke.
Well, whatever battle we're seeing here between Umpi Swart and Luke Lucchese, we're seeing a similar battle between Francois Hubert and Keegan Masters. Masters applying the same amount of pressure. He's also only 2/10 of a second off the back end there of Francois Hubert. So a lot that can happen here. Just look at how close Keegan Masters is there to the Wild Rose gin car of Francois Hubert.
Yeah, not only just Masters on Hubert, it means that Hubert is only 7/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie, which means that Johan Fourie is coming under pressure as well from Francois Hubert. Johan is 1.7 behind Byron Mitchell. But yes, Francois Hubert is applying the pressure as well there to Johan Fourie.
Keegan Masters looking back, and that's what the gearbox shot looks like from Keegan Masters back to Julian Familiaris. Then in behind that battle that we were watching, that's Umpi Swart and Mr. Luke Lucchese. So the three of them are set up there, line astern. Keegan Masters, a man that's done lots of main circuit racing, mainly up north, not down here in the Western Cape area, but has been in racing all his life. And I think he uses the iRacing just to tweak the skills. But Frankie, you've done a lot of commentary on karting through the years, and you've always claimed and maintained that karters come through and become of the best racing drivers in latter years.
Yes, definitely. There's just no two ways about it. If you're a top class karter and you are a champion karter, it's guaranteed that you're going to do well if you do iRacing or real-time racing. You're going to be at the sharp end of the field. If you can cut your teeth at karting and make it there, you can make it anywhere, as Frank Sinatra would say.
Well, a lot of battles happening throughout the field there. We're watching this one with Keegan Masters applying pressure there on Francois Hubert. Further down the field, Matt Shorter is doing something similar there to Andrew Brown, as well as Peter Hubert, who is starting to apply a lot of pressure there on Mr. Raymond Duggan for that 16th position.
Yeah, Mr. Raymond Duggan's coming under severe attack. There's only 3/10 of a second between the two of them. As we have a look there at Raymond Duggan, in that 16th position, and right there on his case is a 777 of Peter Hubert, 0.2 of a second between Peter and Raymond as they battled it out there on circuit for P16.
Yeah, not too far behind them. Rudy Murray is also hanging in there, trying to see what he can do, and he's got Johan Engelbrecht right on his case there in the number 99, followed by Natium Samanga and Zach Forster.
Yeah, that's a whole fight out there for that 16th position between Douglas Hubert, Murray, Engelbrecht and Natium Samanga. And Willem Botha in 21st, 3 seconds behind Natium Samanga. So there's quite a few of them that's having a go at each other out there for that 16th position.
Yeah, then Willem Botha out there in the number 300 Ford GT. Then we've got Zach Forster out there in the number 30 Porsche with the likes of Swayze Hubert right on his case. That's also a very close one, with Swayze Hubert also plastered to the back end there of that Porsche.
Yeah, that is a fight out there for 21st position, believe it or not. And these guys are going to give absolutely nothing away. If you go a bit further down the leaderboard, there's another fight out there for 26th position, and that's between Sander Bakari, Andrew Thomas, and Leighton Fourie. Whoever would have thought the reigning SA Polar Cup champion Leighton Fourie would be fighting it out, Gary, for 28th, what should I say, for 26th position.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Matt Shorter running into a problem. I think it was a pretty high-speed one at the end. Oh, the tail end just walks away. And, well, he manages to stop it without any damage to the motor car. And I suppose that, under the given circumstances, is the most important thing of all. Let's go back to the front end of the field. This man started on the front row of the grid, and he's held onto that without any problem whatsoever. He's already started to lap of the back markers. 30th position, Jan Spammers finds himself between Byron Mitchell now and Johan Fourie, which means that Johan Fourie is going to be making a passing maneuver on the car in front of him in a not too distant future, and he's got to make it kind of quick. He cannot afford to lose out any time to Byron Mitchell, because Byron is really stretching the boys up front.
Yeah, Byron starting to stretch them there, but not only can Johan Fourie not afford to lose touch with the likes of Byron Mitchell and be stuck there behind Jan Spalmers, he's also got the hard charging train of Francois Hubert, Keegan Masters, Julian Familiaris and Yuri Swart, all tucked in right underneath that wing of his car, so he cannot take it easy whatsoever.
And Luke Lucchesi for that matter as well. He sits out there in that 7th position. So what do you do if you are Johan Fourie? You're just going to keep on going, and you're going to keep the others honest in there ahead of you. He has got the best seat in the house so far as Luke Lucchesi, because he's got 2.1 seconds between himself and Luke King. So there's no pressure on the man that we're riding on board with right now from Luke King. So he can breathe slightly and apply the pressure to the other guys out there ahead of him.
Well, everybody that's in front of that will know that it's all big names, Linus Cern, from first all the way down to 7th position, and no disrespect to the likes of Luke King, but that front 7 have been in that train and within a second of one another for an extended period of time. Keeping in mind, 18 minutes done of a 1.5 hour race. So I think you're finding some of the big hitters are pacing themselves in this one as somebody runs very, very wide.
That was Spalmers.
That could have been
That was
Jan Spalmers
yeah.
that ran wide. Let's just check. Was it Jan Spalmers?
Yeah, it definitely
He
was.
just
one
went
of the back
straight.
markers.
Yeah. Got onto the brakes and just went straight down into that escape road.
Too many pressure from the back. Let's go back to the front end of the field and let's have a look to see what it's like to have an open piece of property in front of you. There's a decent gap for Byron Mitchell without any cars directly in front of him. He can really put the hammer down. But how do you get away from this man, Johan Fourie? He is so quick and so consistent. He just doesn't let you out of his sight, although he brings that high-speed train with him that a Mike Fourie transport sponsor on the side of that motor car. Love to see that. Johan Fourie, Mike Fourie transport, and well, Johan Fourie putting the pressure on, but the pressure is still there from behind. Francois Hubert does not know how to back off. He is always in the top 2, 3 or 4.
Well, Yuri Swart's back in it again. He was at one stage 1.4 seconds behind Familiaris, and that is basically because they were catching Jan Spalmers.
Lucchesi got past.
Well done there. Pick that one up. Very nice indeed. I was, well, you see, precisely what I'm trying to say, because this has affected Umpi Swart. It was 1.4, he brought it back to 1.1 because of the Jan Sparmer situation. And in trying to get his composure back again, Luke Lucchesi takes that position away from him.
Yeah. Mr. Luke Lucchesi, according to the board. Francois Hubert, the man we're watching right now in the Wild Rose car, and doing a lovely job. He is the leading BMW. Two Ferraris up front in Byron Mitchell and Johan Ferry. Then the BMW of Francois Hubert, the Porsche of Keegan Masters, and then a long list of BMWs. The two Familiaris, Mr. Luke Lucchesi, Umpi Swart, and Luke King. Umpi cannot be happy having just been passed by Luke Lucchesi. Although he will know if he can stay with Luke, Luke is more than likely going to take him and that Impini car closer to the front end of the field.
Oh, yeah.
All he must do is hang on to the back of him. Remember, I don't think Luke is going to drive away from him at this point in time. As we look at a replay here of Nadim Samanga in the Porsche. A bit of track limits there. And then the tail stepping out and him slamming hard there into the concrete wall on his right-hand side.
That was a big one. That was that was making or using a very expensive lawnmower there, the Porsche out there. But let's have a look and see what Keegan Campos did. That's an Italian lawnmower apparently, or a digger, but he manages to keep it in one piece there in the Ferrari.
Well, it's all happening out there. Yudi Swart coming back there at Lucchesi, 4/10 of a second between Lucchesi and Swart in there behind you. I told you a lap or so ago, there's no ways that Luke Lucchesi will drive away from Yudi Swart. Yudi will fight right back. As good as they are, both of them, they are not going to give an inch or a millimeter or a centimeter to each other for that matter. We ride on board here with Familiaris, 5/10 of a second between himself and Keegan Masters. That's just ahead of him, climbing all over the curbs there. Is Keegan Masters. Familiaris right on the case there of Masters, who in turn is nearly on the case of Hubert. There's 7/10 of a second between Masters and Hubert ahead of him.
Yeah, I must say it's so nice to commentate on this kind of racing, and it's so nice to see how the technology has improved. You cannot put a tire off the racing line, then we can pick up that you've actually put it off the racing line and onto the dirty stuff, kicking up some grass or dirt there. And I must say, one of my favorite shots would be when they come down the Ullman Straight with the sun catching it. You can see the sun glistening off the cars. Beautiful shots of them coming down the Ullman Straight at the back.
Right, so Familiaris there in that 5th position, right on the case there of Keegan Masters in the Porsche, just ahead of him as they make their way into that slight left-hander, and Familiaris is on the gas. You can hear that he hasn't lifted off going into that part of the track. It's a lovely flowing circuit. This track has got everything except a crossover, so this circuit will offer you all sorts of race conditions.
Yeah, Julian Familiaris using as much as of the track as possible, and interesting to see if anybody's had any X's yet with 23 minutes into this race. A lot of the guys running quite wide, but it doesn't seem like they police them as heavily on the circuit. There we go. The most so far would be 5 for Willem Botha, and then Zach Foster, as well as Leighton Fourie and Jason Kutsia, with 4 offs in this race.
Have a look at the last laps there for Byron Mitchell. He just done a 1:56. So the guys are not doing half bad at all there. I'll tell you what, I think, 5 after nearly 24 minutes. Not bad. So the boys have been behaving themselves out there in general. And yep, the racing hasn't been as hard as nails.
Well, for those of you that have just joined us, just to bring you back to where we're at, this is the Canvas Intelligent MSA Series 4 2022. It's round number 3 of 8. We are at Sebring International, and what a race it's been so far.
Yeah, somebody's made a major mistake there, and
it's Johan Fourie.
Johan Fourie. Oh yes, Johan Fourie tumbling down the order there. That was a big one for Fourie.
Yeah, Johan Fourie getting it all wrong in the Mike Fourie and Sons Transport, Ferrari, and Fourie that was in 2nd position. He's just going to tumble down that leaderboard. If there was contact with him, I don't know. We'll have a look and see. But yeah, trouble out there for Johan Fourie, and not exactly what he needed at this point in time.
Well, that changes the leaderboard considerably because we see Keegan Masters up into P2, Julian Familiaris in P3, Francois Hubert's dropped all the way down to 4th place with Fourie having dropped down to 9th. That puts Lucchesi in 5th place, followed by Yuri Swart, Luke King and Jacques Guetta.
Andrew Brown also trying to get himself closer into the top 10. I see Frankie was just pointing at that one. He's in the back of Keegan Campos, the Campos transport car. And look at that. Oh, well, you would tend to think that being so far, Frankie, on the outside of that solid white line would be a off track. But in the way this is set up, that is not an off track, and the guy's making use of it. It's not the shortest way around. It's the longer way around, but it carries good speed through. We have to go back to the front. It's Francois Hubert that's sitting in that 4th position and closing once again on Julian and Keegan.
Yeah, that fight is not over for 2nd place. Keegan is in 2nd place. He's only 0.3 of a second ahead there of Familiaris, and who is indeed 0.7 of a second ahead of Francois Hubert. Then a second behind them is Luke Lucchesi, and 0.6 of a second behind Lucchesi is Yuri Swart. So that fight is certainly on. They're going wide. They are fighting hard in FC. They're choosing their own race lines here.
Yeah.
And all Masters and Familiaris, they're having a heck of a fight out there.
Hell of a battle it is there between Familiaris and Masters, and Familiaris is the man that takes the lead. And just to show you how close it is there between them, Familiaris not really pulling away. Keegan Masters sticking with him, and Francois Hubert thinks he's got a big chance to get his nose up there with them as well as they head into that right-hander. It is Familiaris in P2, Masters in P3 with Hubert, and here comes Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
And Mr. Yuri Swart for that matter as well. So it's on. It's really on for the 2nd position at this point in time. And then there's a bit of a gap between all the others, except the Brown is all over the back of Campos. But it's this massive fight out there for that 2nd position. Familiaris is a man that races SA V8 supercars, Julian Familiaris, and he is no slouch around any racetrack, as Hubert is all over the back of Keegan Masters, and Luke Lucchesi is right in there as well. He's all over the back of Francois Hubert. Under the Yokohama Bridge they go. Man, this is really game on.
Well, that's what's happening behind Francois Hubert. That is Luke Lucchesi that you just referred to now. And as we said, probably find that Umpi will realize, bring that Umpini car through with the pace of Luke Lucchesi, and you'll be heading towards the front end of the field. Umpi Swart not, in fact, been able to keep up that pace, and you can see that on the last laps out there that Luke Lucchesi is definitely the man on the move, and Luke Lucchesi is now starting to look to go one position further up. But how do you get past Francois Hubert? He is Mr. Rock Solid.
Yeah, he is indeed Mr. Rock Solid, is Francois Hubert. He's not going to crack. He's part of that famous Hubert racing family with Davy Hubert and all the others. And he is certainly not going to crack. He's going to hang on to the back of Masters, and he's going to try his best to keep Lucchesi behind him.
Well, let's have a look and see here what happened here. Corne Briet being involved there, getting a massive shunt there from one of the Ferraris as Corne Briet gets sent packing.
Looks like he turned in on one of those Ferraris out there.
Yeah, that costs kind of heavily as we go back to live. So the next question, Frankie, is pit stops. How is that going to play out in this one? We've got no idea. I, in fact, made a point of not asking the question, so we don't know. So we're going to guess through it. What we do know is the man that was leading the championship in Weberski Jr. not out there for this race at all. And the action is happening in his absence.
Red hot racing are happening out there as Luke Lucchesi is stuck to the back there of Francois Hubert. It's all out war between. Look at how close Lucchesi is getting down that straight into that corner. Oh, somebody else runs very wide. Ooh, Lucchesi's got his nose up on the inside. Has he made it through? Yes, Luke Lucchesi goes through on the inside of Francois Hubert.
Yo. It is massive hardcore fighting out there. I'll tell you what. There's Lucchesi. There's Hubert ahead of him. He's got the slipstream up on the inside. He's next to him. He's absolutely side by side and he's going to make it there as Hubert runs wide. That's the replay of Lucchesi taking that position.
So Mr. Lucchesi moves up one further towards the front end of the field. But look at who is in front of him. It's game on. Here comes the next fight. Julian Familiaris looks in front. It looks all fine. He looks behind him, and that's what he sees. The ominous sight of Mr. Lucchesi.
Yeah, Lucchesi getting closer and closer, and they've still got your front row Hubert in there with them as well. Yuri Swart manages to get past Keegan and Masters. Masters made a mistake there, and that allowed Umpi Swart to get his nose up through there and get up into 5th position.
That brings Luke King with as well, because Luke King in P7 is right on the case there of Keegan Masters as well. I'll tell you what, you blink an eye, you turn your head to the left or the right, and something has happened as Willem Botha exceeds track limits there in the Ford GT40. There's only Ford out there on circuit, and he is not a happy chappy as he sits out there in the 18th position.
Side-by-side action. Look at this. Lucchesi along the outside. Now he's on the inside of Familiaris, and he goes up into P2. Brilliant move there by Luke Lucchesi. Read that perfectly. Went for the outside. That quickly became the inside, and Familiaris had no answer to try and block off Luke Lucchesi.
Well, now the next trick, Frankie, is what's the gap from Lucchesi up to the front man, Byron Mitchell. And let's be honest, Byron Mitchell started at the front, finds himself at the front, leads the pack out without much problem whatsoever. But if, as we said, if there's anybody that can fight their way through the pack, it's Johan Ferry and Luke Lucchesi, and here they come.
Here they come, absolutely side by side. Lucchesi, Familiaris, and right on his case is Hubert. Francois Hubert is right in that fight as well. They're only 1.4 seconds ahead of Umpi Swart. Umpi Swart has been hassled heavily there by Keegan Masters and by Luke King. It is game on. You put a wheel out of line, you can go from 0 to 0 very quickly.
A 0 to 0 very quickly indeed, Frankie. As we ride on board there with Julian Familiaris, he's got missile locked there on Lucchesi. He wants that position back. He knows he's got to get back past Lucchesi if he's going to have any chance to catch Byron Mitchell, who's 7 seconds up the road from them in the lead of this race. But Familiaris now starting to pull a gap there from Francois Hubert as they all start to settle in those positions and wait for the next opportunity to battle it out.
Right, James, while we have a look at this war going on, an hour 30, 90 minutes. I think pit stops anywhere between 45 and 50 minutes into the race. These guys will go into the pits. Just my prediction.
Yeah, well, look, if you look at the lap times, they're getting pretty close down to the lap times that they did in qualifying. Qualifying you'll do with this. Oh, somebody runs very, very wide there. Who was that?
Is that Francois? No, I thought it was Francois Hubert. It's not.
But yeah, if you look, when you do your qualifying, you're going to do that with as little as fuel as possible. And those lap times were in the 155, 156s. We're already getting down to those lap times. So I don't think pit stops are too far off from now.
That was actually a biggie going off there. That was Julian Familiaris in the 43 car. I don't know why he's flashing the lights. Maybe that's because the rev limiter is coming on. But it was all by himself that he went off there, did Julian Familiaris. And that takes one of the big names just a little bit further down. So the man that's going to start feeling the pressure now, Byron Mitchell. What is the gap? It's 9.4 from Francois Hubert with Luke Lucchesi directly in there behind him. So Luke Lucchesi, Umpi Swart, Keegan Masters, Luke King. That is the battle.
What a rumble in the jungle out there. Lucchesi, 0.3 of a second behind Francois Hubert. Look at this high-speed express train that is coming down towards us. Hubert, Lucchesi, Swart, and Masters, and Luke King for that matter, all in that fight. And is Francois Hubert the slowest of the lot out there at this point in time? Well, yes, he is, because Yuri is doing a 157. Keegan's doing a 157. Luke King's doing a 157. So Francois Hubert, to a certain degree, FC, is keeping the pack up.
Yeah, but something big must have happened that unsettled Familiaris to cause that off. Because the last time we saw them, Lucchesi was in that second place. Now it's Francois Hubert that's in there in P2, and they've lost 2 seconds to the race leader, Byron Mitchell. Luke Lucchesi going to try and get back there. Let's have a look here and see what happened to Captain Pete. Oh, that BMW just deciding, it's a good time to take a bit of a lounger next to the track.
Another biggie that's just happened is Leighton Ferry. And That is Leighton Fourie passing Zach Foster. So moving up one position. Although it's still a long way down, every single position counts out there. Look at that high-speed train. And if you think about it, Frankie, you said half an hour gone. It's 35 minutes gone already, and there's nothing in it. Less than a second between the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Just on a second up to Julian Familiaris, and then Jacques Buerter coming into play. Now, that's somebody that we haven't really spoken much about so far. Jacques Buerter, can he turn that into an 8-way battle?
Well, it's going to have to, because Julian is now 1.2 seconds behind Luke King. So Buerter's going to have to come to the party, as Familiaris is somebody's just dropping down that leaderboard.
That's Keegan Masters.
That's Keegan Masters, yes. He's gone all the way down. He's in pit lane.
Yeah.
That's why. He is in pit lane.
Like I said, I predict that the pit stops might start happening pretty soon, and Keegan Masters the first one to jump there. Is he going to try and do a bit of an undercut? He was also pretty high up for one of the Porsche drivers. Most of the cars at the front, either Ferraris or BMWs, and I think Keegan was the highest placed Porsche, so that might have chowed a bit of the fuel there of the Porsche of Keegan Masters.
It is a little bit early, Frankie, if you think about it. Only 35 into 1 hour 30. That leaves you with a 55-minute stint on the second set of tires, unless it's a case of fuel light early on, get into a good track position, then go for the early, hope for the undercut, and then run it from there. And then as the track later on starts opening up in front of you, as everybody else goes into the pits.
I agree with what FC said there. You fueled it light, you come into the pit, you fuel it fat, and then you go for the undercut towards the end of the race when everybody else dives into the pits. That is a possibility. We, of course, don't know that. We're only guessing, as Keegan has made a pit stop, Leighton Fourie's made a pit stop, and then Brown, Kutzer, Sparmers, and Jonty Weiss has made 2 pit stops.
Well, Lucchese's managed to work his way past Francois Hubert once again. He's up into that second position, but they are all starting to trail Byron Mitchell by quite a lot. Mitchell already has a 10.5 second lead on the entire pack, as Lucchese sits there in P2 with Francois Hubert on his case, followed by Umpi Swart, Luke King, Familiaris, Buerter, Fourie, Kurze, Campos, and Graham Stephen rounding off your top 11.
Well, let's have a look and see. I was going to stick my head out and say, watch that 10 seconds become 9 seconds, become 8 seconds, but at this point in time, it doesn't look like it.
It's more becoming, it's going to 11 seconds and 12 seconds.
So I was watching that and thinking, no, what I'm thinking is all wrong, that the interval gap is going in the wrong direction for Luke Lucchese. Maybe somehow Byron knows that Luke is there and he's just upped the pace a bit. That, of course, I don't know. But Lucchese himself is in trouble. And the trouble, or the problem, is called Hubert, Swart, King, Familiaris, and Jacques Buerter.
Yeah, Jacques Buerter, he's done enough to find himself in a very comfortable position. He hasn't done anything major, hasn't done anything to stand out. We just saw all of a sudden, boom, Jacques Buerter, P7, creeping closer and closer.
Well, there you can see Francois Hubert. As we said, the problem for Luke Lucchese is, in fact, that Francois Hubert, Umpi, Luke, Julian, and Jacques are line astern behind him. Somehow Luke Lucchese needs to make a gap between himself and Francois Hubert to not have to run those protective lines to keep Francois Hubert behind him. Francois Hubert, I don't think, feels too worried about Umpi Swart right now, because if you look at the gap, it's remained very constant, around about 0.4 between Yuri Swart and Francois, about 0.4 between Luke King and Umpi, and around about 0.4 between Julian and the man in front of him being Luke King. So I think they pretty much are quite capable of running on the same pace. Maybe Luke's overcooked the tires a bit earlier on and's not been able to do anything further.
I was about to say check the leaderboard there. We might have a change up, and it happened as I was about to say. Leighton Fourie managed to work his way past Raymond Duggan for that position. There we go. Leighton Fourie up on the inside, the 2 Porsches. Duggan making a little bit of a mistake going into the corner, running it just a little bit too deep and handing that position off to Leighton Fourie.
Well, I was going to say that 11.9 seconds between Byron Mitchell and Luke Lucchese is purely not because Luke hasn't got the pace, but he's got to drive very, very defensive. to keep those 5-6 guys in there behind him. And that's the reason why Mitchell is busy disappearing further and further down the road.
See, what goes through your mind when you're riding so much on the edge? You put Mr. behind your name because you can. Jy mag, jy kan, jy wil, jy ken van. And 40 minutes later, this whole train of cars, it's a 6-car train just sitting, watching, waiting for you to make the slightest mistake or drag them closer to Byron Mitchell at the front.
Yeah, look, it's a catch-22. You know you can go faster, but at the moment you go faster, you open yourself up to an attack either around the outside or up the inside. So it's a very, very difficult position that Luke Lucchesi finds himself in there. But it's a position he's handling quite well, not buckling under the pressure with Hubert being so close to him. But Kumpi Swart, Luke King, Julian Familiares and Botha now all starting to come into play.
And now Luke Lucchesi, he's got a back marker in front of him, and he is called Andrew Thomas. Now can the back marker come into play and change his whole thing around for Luke Lucchesi, because Luke Lucchesi is not too far behind Andrew Thomas. As a matter of fact, he is 1.7 behind Andrew Thomas is Luke Lucchesi. So he will be getting ever so closer to that back marker. In his head, he'll be saying to himself, now, I've got to get past the back marker when I eventually catch him, and he's not far behind him, and yet I'm going to keep these other hot shots in there somehow behind me.
Yeah, I don't think it's in his head, FC. I think he's actually shouting on the microphone, excuse me, por favor, excuse-moi, monsieur, please be aware. I have some hot shots behind me that believe they are in for a top 3. And please don't get in my way as Luke Lucchesi closes up on the back of Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, that was through turn number 1 and now through turn 2. Then he's going to get to that complex 3 and 4. There he goes through 3 now. Then it's the S kink that they're going to go through. It's that quick right left-hander as they get then to Big Bend as he gets ever closer and closer there to Andrew Thomas. But look at this front row Hubert right on his case there, and then right on his case is Umpi Swart, Luke King, Julian Familiares. We might just see some tears here before this race is over.
Yeah, and Jacques Botha as well. Oh my word, that Italian blood is boiling inside Luke Lucchesi now. Can you imagine how focused these guys are? Lucchesi, Hubert, Swart, King, Familiares and Botha. And Byron Mitchell will say to himself, I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this. I'm 12, nearly 13 seconds down the road ahead from Lucchesi, who's got a monster fight on his hands.
I think Byron Mitchell FC is saying to himself, do not make a mistake. Do not make a mistake. Do not make a mistake. He's doing it all right. He's done it right for 42 minutes. Times 42 by 2. That means we're almost at half distance. A lot of guys have still got to come into the pit lane, and the closing down now on the back marker is happening as they come down the back straight.
Yeah,
is he going to back right out of it? How many will he let past?
He goes and sits quite wide there. Lets Lucchesi through. Lets Hubert, Swart. Most of them come through there on the inside there of Brown as this race continues.
Well, I'll tell you this for nothing. While these guys are holding each other up, don't forget about Johan Fourie. He's only 2.7 seconds behind Jacques Botha, and Jacques is involved in this hell of a fight out there for second position. And here comes Mr. Johan Fourie himself. But if Luke can call himself Mr. Lucchesi, then I can call Johan Fourie Mr. Fourie as well.
Okay, so are they slowing one another up?
Yes.
The last lap time for Johan Fourie, 156.9, a 56.9 for Jacques, a 57.2 for Julian, a 56.9 for Luke, a 57.7. So definitely on the same pace, Johan Fourie. He just needs Luke to back them up a little bit, just a little. Francois needs to tackle Luke here and there, forcing a slower entry and exit on a covering line, and that is going to bring Johan Fourie back into play. And well, there Johan Fourie says, hello, you Mr. Excuse-moi, monsieur, I need to fetch those boys up front.
So Andrew Thomas moves out the way and says, no problem for Johan, go through and go and play with those boys ahead of you.
Just ahead of him is, in fact, this man, Jacques Botha. Jacques Botha would now also love to get onto the back of that train. If you can just pick up a little bit of space and make up that one additional position, towards the back of Julian Familiaris, and that's the gap that he's got to make up. And he can then make it a battle for second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth position before Johan Fourie gets to him.
Yeah, the guys are starting to settle out there. They're still giving each other quite a bit of hard time. Byron Mitchell putting away from the pack there, 13 seconds ahead of Luc Lucchesi. Then Francois Hubert, 0.3 of a second behind Lucchesi, followed there by Yuri Umpiswart, Luke King, Julian Familiaris, and then Jacques Botha. All of them in there. Johan Fourie now already gotten it down to 1.8 seconds as he is creeping closer and closer to this batch.
But FC Jacques Botha was doing yellow times. He's all of a sudden 1.6 seconds behind Familiaris. So he might have put a wheel out of line there, Jacques Botha, and lost a bit of time to Julian ahead of him. And all that's going to do is bring Johan Fourie into play.
Yeah, well, we saw him run a bit wide there coming out of that one turn. But who's this Johan Engelbrecht putting a move there on side by side, close racing there between Johan Engelbrecht. Here we have got Keegan Campos in the Ferrari. Let's see what he did there.
I think that
ran a bit wide.
I think he actually went over the entry line on the pits, and that's why the computer showed him as entry into the pit lane. We do know that Keegan Campos is in fact showing in the pits. There is Keegan Campos, and I think the boys are going to start climbing into the pits in the not too distant future. Jan Spammer's on his way out of the pit lane. Also in there is Brad Liebenberg. He's had a pretty quiet one at this stage to find Keegan Campos now about to work his way out of the pits. But I think they're going to start piling into the pits in the not too distant future. Can anybody do an under and an overcut? I think that front grouping with Julian Familiaris with that long line of cars in front of him, do they all pile into the pits together? And if they do, we apologize now for how we're going to shout and scream to see who comes out first.
Well, FC, I said between 45 and 50 minutes the guys will start pitting. We are nearly on 47 minutes. And you have seen one or two of them go into the pits already. So the moment this round of pit stop starts, it could blow this whole show that you're seeing there for P2 completely apart.
Oh yeah, we saw Keegan Masters, who was in P2 at one stage. He pitted quite early, and that I still think that was a case of fueling very light as Jacques Botha goes into the pits. The first of that battling group there to dive into the pits as he loses a position there to Josh Kurtzer. But yeah, like I said, Masters might have fueled light early on, then fueled fat now, and let's see how that undercut works out for him.
Well, yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Has he done it right, and the others just doing the standard fuel stop? And well, yeah, as you say, time will tell. But there's nothing between them, absolutely nothing. We're right aboard with Luke King, who is 0.5 of a second just behind Yuri Swart there in that fourth position. And this is Johan Engelbrecht is there in pit lane as well, pitting out a P20 is Johan Engelbrecht as we stay with this fight there. Luke King has got Familiaris in turn behind him as well, 0.4 of a second between himself and Julian that sits in there behind him as we look at that front left-hand side suspension of that Luke King car working heavily overtime.
Well, I can tell you what, Keegan Masters has already gotten past one of those contenders in that front group as he managed to get out ahead of Jacques Botha, who also had to drop down behind Raymond Duggan as he came out of the pits. So already one box tick there for Keegan Masters.
Oh, there's the pass of Keegan Masters as he works his way up on that line, and that is where he made it up. Now, Frankie, the question is, Byron Mitchell, if he goes in and comes out and nobody else has gone in, he's going to find himself embroiled in this six-car battle. Has he fueled fat enough to stay out long enough to force this high-speed train of Hubert, Swart, King, Familiaris and Johan Fourie that's slowly but surely closing? Can he stay out long enough that they go in, then he goes in and comes out in open air once again?
Well, if Byron comes to pit now, okay, with nearly 50 minutes done, and he will come out in that fight, but they all got to go into pits, and as they go in, he just ticks them off one by one and goes back into P1 again. So yeah, probably have that thought in his mind, do I stick out a bit longer, or do I go in now and then come out in this fight that you're looking at on screen now, and then go past them one by one as they hit the pit lane? But it's all a question of what to do, and this what makes it so interesting for us, because we don't know what's going on through the minds of these drivers as Raymond Duggan makes his way into pit lane.
FC, looking at that, you're looking around about 23, 24, 25, 27 seconds is the average pit stop time that has been for the guys in there. The gap between Luke Lucchese and Byron Mitchell, only 13 seconds. It's not enough. He has to stretch it out. He's got to force this high-speed train into the pits before.
Yeah, he's got to try and do that, as Raymond Duggan has got into the pits there. But leading that group from second position onwards, Luke Lucchese still got Francois Hubert stuck to the back end of his BMW. Let's have a look and see what happened here. Natim Samanga in the 24 car coming down the Ullman Straight. Completely overdid it going into Sunset Bend and having a very scary moment.
Yeah, the front end actually touched the wall there, Frankie. Let's hope that doesn't affect him too badly. Raymond Duggan into the pits and on his way out.
Well, there's a fight going out there, Gary, for P10 as well. Peter Hubert, Noor Hendricks and Leighton Fourie in this fight, and they're all on the back end there of the man in 10th position, namely Matt Shorter. That's going to be one to keep an eye out on. It's not only just that fight out there for second position, there's a fight on track for P10 as well, and that's a group of cars you see going on your screen there right now.
Yeah, Peter Fourie sitting there ahead of a Leighton Fourie. Leighton also being a man on the move throughout the pack here, as Josh Kurtzer was the man that dives into the pits from the 8th position behind Johan Fourie, and he was about 17 seconds ahead there of Graham Stephen.
So the fight is happening all over the place. Leighton Fourie gets his nose ahead there of Noor Hendricks. Fourie there in the Porsche, Noor Hendricks in the Ferrari as they go racing down that straight. And then ahead of Josh Kutzer also dropping down that leaderboard, but he's in the pits. So that's the reason why, and he'll be making his way out pretty soon.
Well, the top man that's been into the pit so far is in fact Leighton Fourie, and he has gone in on a 51 minutes, which is more than halfway mark already. So let's hope that that all works out quite fine for him. But Julian Familiares, Luke King, Umpi Swart, Francois Hubert, Luke Lucchese. Just think of the fatigue that's got to be setting in with them now, running so close to one another.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we've spoken about fatigue quite often, even in the Masters Series, which is a lot shorter races. But even there, you do get tired. There's a lot of concentration, especially if the field is this close together. You've got to be on it every single lap. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. And, hour and a half, a long way to go for these guys with this close racing. And let's have a look here as Julian Familiaris sits there in that 6th position, trying to catch up. But Luke King is all over the back of Yuri Swart. But let's have a look here. What is Noor Hendricks doing?
Luke King in the pits. Sorry, FC. He's one of that first top 6 drivers to blink.
Someone else dives in. Johan Fourie.
Johan Fourie in the pit lane as well. Johan might just have some kind of a plan here. We don't know. We'll have to look and see. Here comes Graham Stephen. Oh my word, he is 29 seconds behind Johan Fourie, sitting out there in P8 is Graham Stephen.
Well, Johan Fourie managed actually to leapfrog Luke King in the pits. Might just be because his pit box is a bit further down the pit lane. Let's see who will come out of that pit stop first between Fourie and King, as Graham Stephen passes them on the main straight. There goes Luke King. He's already in the pit exit. Johan Fourie still in the pits. So Luke King getting a very good one there. Johan Fourie now finally gets going again and makes his way back out onto the circuit.
Well, here he comes, the Mike Fourie and Sons Transport Ferrari of Johan Fourie, working his way back out on track. He is joining in 13th position, and only 0.5 of a second in there between himself and P12 man, namely Keegan Masters. A replay here at Sways Hubert in the BMW, making his way into pit lane.
So Johan Fourie comes out in a 13th position behind Keegan Masters. So there's another box that Keegan Masters can tick off, but he's not out of trouble because Johan Fourie is only half a second behind him.
Remember, Lucchese, Frankie, you said 9.5, 10 seconds. Let's watch that drop. And you said, oopsie, plan B. Let's watch it get bigger. Byron Mitchell off into the sunset. 13 seconds ahead now, but still not enough to go in and out of the pits.
Lucchese in the pits, Hubert, Swart, all of them. Yeah, there we go.
Lucchese is in. Francois Hubert is in. Swart is in. Familiaris is in. Byron Mitchell has managed to go through, and he's achieved what I would believe would be the right way to go. Now, is anybody going to do short stops? Is anybody going to not take on tires? How's this one going to play out? Who's going to come out of the pits first?
Keep an eye on Luke King. Remember, he's made his pit stop already, and so was Leighton Fourie. Leighton was at the bottom of the leaderboard. Leighton is now in 8th position. He's done a pit stop already. So is Luke King. Where are they going to come out? Will they come out behind this group, or are they now going to mix it with them as well as Graham Stephen, Peter Hubert, Leighton Fourie is in the pit lane again. Well, he has made a pit stop. He's back out there in the pits again. So, FC, it is all happening out there. You're going to have eyes all over the place.
Yeah, this is what we are here for on a Wednesday night, once a month, for the Canvas Intelligence and ASAP new and used spares GTE series, brought to you by Motorsport South Africa. Broadcast brought to you by Second Gear Productions. And what a brilliant race this is turning out to be, with the Byron Mitchell leading this race still. Luke King finding himself there in P2. Lucchese out in a P3, and then Noor Hendricks in P4.
I say a big thing, thanks as well, Gary, to ASAP Motor Spares. They're also one of our main sponsors in this series.
I tell you what, Canvas Intelligence coming on board and making this all possible, and a big prize money. Speak on a correction, roughly around about 60,000 Rand available.
Byron Mitchell in the pits.
Well, this is going to be the biggie. Byron Mitchell goes in now. Where is Luke King? Here comes Luke King. He's 59 seconds further back. I believe Byron Mitchell's going to be able to go in and come back out in the lead of this race without too much problem. There he goes down the pit lane, slowing it down, and he has not come to a halt yet. He's right at the front end of the lane. Where's Luke King? Here's Luke King coming through, and he'll be closing down. Remember, Luke's already done his pit stop, but will he be able to make a plan? Byron Mitchell's still there in the pits. How much longer is it going to take before he can get out of that pit lane? There he still stands in P number 1, the pit box at the front end of the pit lane, but he's still standing still, and Luke King is on the way.
Yeah, down the Ullman straight he goes, in the back into Sunset Bend he goes now. Can he get past Mitchell? It still shows Mitchell is stationary in that pit box. Now he starts that dash down the main straight. That car is still stationary. Here comes Luke King. He's going to pass Mitchell now. There goes Luke King and Lucchese, as well as Noor Hendricks. Byron Mitchell losing out there to Luke Lucchese, Swart, Julian Familiaris, Hubert, Masters, Fourie. And Byron Mitchell finds himself in 10th place after that very, very long pit stop.
There must have been one of two things, Frankie. Either he took on tires and nobody else did, or he had a compulsory stop for some or other reason where he had to stay for a extended period of time in the pits. But Byron Mitchell, who was the fastest out there, finds himself now completely out of it. Luke King, what do we know about this man?
Well, first of all, Noor Hendricks hasn't pitted yet. He sits out in that 3rd position, 9/10 of a second by Luke Lucchese, but Noor has to make a pit stop. And I did say earlier on, Luke King was the first guy in the top 7-8 to make his way into the pits. And when that group dived in, I still said, watch out for Luke King. He might just hit the lead, and he has done exactly just that.
Well, Hendricks doing pretty fine so far, although, as we said, he hasn't done the stop. Surely he will have to go into the pits into the not too distant future. Everybody else has been out there. We are already 58 minutes into this one. And, well, we had one of our earlier pit stops. I think, in fact, it was Luke King that you spoke about, that you said, well, he's still got a 52 or a 53-minute run to go. So it's quite possible that Noor Hendricks must be on the edge now of having to go back into the pits.
Very much possible, but that'll then probably just be a splash and dash. And let's have a look here what happened to Keegan Masters, turning that Porsche into that very expensive lawnmower and taking it sideways off the circuit.
Let's go back to the front end of the field. And Frankie, let's work our way down through the top 10.
Well, Luke King sitting out there in P1. It's going to be hard. It's going to be as hard as nails. He's got Lucchese there in that second place. On the last lap, Luke Lucchese was quicker out there than what Luke King was. Umpi Swart in that third position. He's 4.3 seconds behind Lucchese. He's Umpi Swart, but he has got some serious company in there behind him. Familiaris and Hubert are right there on the case of Yuri Swart. And then Luke has made his way all the way back up into P6. That is Johan Fourie, and he's only 2.1 seconds behind Francois Hubert. Do not write Johan off for a win or a top 3.
No doubt about it. And then in behind that, Jacques Woerter, nice to see him in a decent position. Byron Mitchell down into 8th place, but I think he'll start making his way up through the field. He definitely had the pace. Luke Lucchese had them racked, packed and stacked behind him, but I think it was by millimeters and micrometers, never mind milliseconds, that they were all sitting in there behind him. And here we see Byron Mitchell starting to make the first of, I think, a good couple of passes before the end of this race. 1 hour gone, a half an hour to go.
Yeah, in the last third of this race as Byron Mitchell starts fighting his way back to the front. That was a very, very long stop there for Byron Mitchell. And for a man who was this much in control of this race, I don't know if he has got something planned and if everybody else has to dive into the pits one more time.
I don't think so. What I can tell you is, having been on the channels that the guys chat on during the races and what have you, sometimes you do have a situation where you make an error with the way you preset your items. That's going to happen with your pit master when you go into the pits, as Luke Lucchese, Mr. Luke Lucchese, goes to the front. So Luke King drops down into that second position. But as I was saying, that sometimes you have your settings incorrect, and when you go into the pits where everybody else has already got it set up saying only left tires, only right tires, or no tires, because of the fact that the tire degradation on this Sebring circuit is not that high, and then it goes into that, let's change the tires and let's have a look at the air filter and make double sure that the petrol cap is closed, and the rest of the field just blows past you. Byron Mitchell, the man that led out, down in 7th position. Luke Lucchese has gone to the front. Will anybody head him off from there? Personally, I do not think so.
Well, don't write Luke King off, eh? Lucchese's got his nose ahead of him for sure, but Luke King is keeping him honest, and King is not letting Lucchese get away from him, that is for sure. Familiaris is in a hell of a fight there with Umpi Swart for that third position, and he's got Francois Hubert in there with him as well to keep him company. So that fight is not done yet for that third position, currently there in the hands of Yuri Swart.
And FC, the next thing we need to have a look at, the gap from Johan Fourie back to Francois Hubert. It's not that big. Keep an eye on that. Johan Fourie could become the man on the move in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, Johan Fourie could be the man on the move, but right behind him, he's got the man who was leading this entire race for most of the day. Byron Mitchell, under a second there behind the likes of Johan Fourie. Catching Johan Fourie might seem easy. Passing Johan Fourie, that might be another story altogether.
Yeah, you don't pass the old horse, as I like to call him, that easily, but the pace that Byron Mitchell is carrying throughout this entire race, from the moment the lights went green, is incredible, and he's now only 7/10 of a second in there behind Johan Fourie. And with all respect to Johan, I predict that Mitchell, Gary, will move up there into a P6.
Well, the stats are confirming what you're saying, a 156.2 as opposed to a 157.3 by Byron Mitchell and Johan Fourie. That's massive. That is one hell of a difference, and visually you can now see it. Byron Mitchell closing onto the back of Johan Fourie. But as we just said, catching Johan Fourie is one thing, getting past Johan Fourie is another. But Johan is not one to get involved with unnecessary contact whatsoever. There was a time that he was the fastest man out there. There was no competition for him. Then other guys managed to practice and upgrade their equipment and really get onto the pace. And he was involved in numerous different incidents. And he's now learned from that. And you now find, as an iRacer like that, he lets Byron Mitchell go. And now you will see he will do the proverbial Luke Lucchese. He will lock onto the back if he can onto the back of the man that's proven to be the fastest out there, Byron Mitchell, and hope that Byron can take him back to Julian, Umpi, and Luke.
Well, it's all game on here for that third position. Yuri is in P3, and then you've got Julian Francois in P4 and 5, all over the back there of Yuri Swart. So yeah, that fight is not over and done with yet. So we have a look at a replay here of Willem Botha in the GT and just clips that tire barrier and almost spins himself around there, but manages to keep on going.
Can you get closer to chaos than that without turning your four-wheeler into a three-wheeler? I don't think so.
Well, it is still very much on there. There are other fights happening out there. There's a fight for 12th position between Graham Stephen and Andrew Brown. And then there's fights further back between Rudy Murray and Peter Hubert. But we have to focus on the ones ahead of us as we do look at that fight there between Stephen and Brown. And Brown only 0.3 of a second in there behind the man in P12, namely Graham Stephen. And then there's a fight in that mid-pack for 17th position with Peter Hubert that is only 0.5 of a second in there behind Rudy Murray. So the guys are having their own little battles down in that midfield position, but it's all about that fight, Gary, for that third position. And Luke King, once again, the fight for the lead, only 0.6 of a second in there between himself and Luke Lucchese. Where do you look? The main fight is the one out there for the lead, and then there's another one for that third position.
Yep, no doubt about it. Somebody that we haven't really spoken about much, and somebody that came to the fore in the 6-hour race is this man, Zach Forster. We're accustomed to seeing him doing some brilliantly quick runs, and he just cannot get himself into that top 15.
No, he's 17 seconds behind Rudy Murray, and that's the man that's fighting with Peter Hubert for that 17th position. Meantime, Byron Mitchell, 0.6 of a second behind the man that's in P5, Francois Hubert, and he's getting slightly away, is Mitchell, from Fourie. He's now 1.5 seconds ahead there of Johan Fourie, that's now in that 7th position. So yeah, it's not done. It's not done. Luke King is not letting Luke Lucchese get away from him, and Yuri Swart has got them racked and stacked in there behind him in that fight, that tremendous war going on out there for that third position.
Well, FC, if you look at all the lap times, 57.4, 57.4, 57.5, 57 flat, 57.3, then a 56.4 for Byron Mitchell. So not only was he in a class of his own out front, even after these pit stops, he is still the fastest man out there. And just for interest's sake, let's see who has put up the best lap time for this race. It is in fact that man, it's Byron Mitchell, that has put up the fastest lap overall in the race so far. But, well, let's see what happens. Mr. Luke Lucchese up front, coming up there behind the captain Peter van der Spey. And Peter, one of the guys that will make 100% sure that he doesn't get involved with anything unnecessary. Luke King says, excusez-moi, monsieur, pardon, the golf jet pilot, if you don't mind, I'd like to catch that guy in front. Flashes the lights. He's going to make his way through. There is Peter van der Spey, but I'm sure that he will open up and make sure that Luke King does not lose out there whatsoever. Luke King flashing those lights heavily and saying, please, 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 I've worked hard to get onto the back of this man. I know if Luke Lucchese gets away, I'm not going to be able to go and fetch him.
Yeah, Captain Pete really not making it easy for him, actually sticking to his line there, trying to make the fastest line, trying to actually race these cars. But finally, Luke King gets past and now can try and get back at Luke Lucchese. He's dropped down to 1.2 seconds behind. Then Umpi Swart, 3.2 seconds behind them. Swart now actually starting to gain back on Luke King, after King being stuck there behind Captain Pete. Then Julian Familiaris right there on that back bumper, 0.3 of a second in there behind Swart, followed by Byron Mitchell, who's the man on the move.
Look at Jan Engelbert, Frankie, as he moves right towards the inside of the track with the black car and says, okay guys, you keep on trucking. I'm a little bit further down the pack. I'm in 25th position. Don't want to mess up your race. And through they go. Julian Familiaris on the tail end there of Umpi Swart, not letting Umpi get away. Remember, Umpi needs these points. He needs them big. He wants to win some serious prize money Canvas Intelligence putting up some big numbers for this, the MSA GTE series of 2022.
Yeah, as we have a look there at Yuri Swart and Julian, the next man that they're going to catch and lap, believe it or not, I never ever thought I would say this, is the Iron Man Jason Kutsia. Well, it turned horrible for Jason. He's sitting out there, Jason, in that 24th position, and he has got them coming in there. Swart and Familiaris is right there on his case, and he's going to have to just keep out the way and allow Umpi Swart and Julian Familiaris through.
A slightly different shot there, a trail shot from Umpi Swart's 39 car, man, that has had massive success in GTI Challenge at Grand International Raceway, in karting, and also now in a Polo Cup, coming second to Leighton Ferry, and he's the biggest hope from Cape Town, with the likes of Tate Bishop and the Ironman Jason Kutsia for this year's Polo Cup series. We keep on referring back to this Polo Cup series, but frankly, let's be honest, to our mind, to your mind, my mind, it is the premier and most difficult one-make series out there in South Africa right now for the best of the best. If you want to go and ride overseas, that's where you've got to show your mettle and show what you're made of if you want to go out into the international market.
Yes, the Polo Cup, and then the GTC series, and then of course the Super Polos as well. If you can do well in karting and you can do well in those two formula, well, yeah, then you have got it made, that's for sure. Yuri Swart in that third position. He's been pressurized heavily there, lap after lap after lap, and still hanging on to that third position. As we have a look here at Willem Botha, and almost doing a swapper there on the track in that GT14.
Finds himself in a very awkward situation. What do you do from there? You try and spin it around, and you don't want to damage the aerodynamics on the car either. It's quite a long, oh, he's losing so much time. Look at that one, and he eventually pulls it back into line, and Willem Botha gets it going, but he will be using lots of French amongst his English underneath the visor as he gets it back out onto the circuit.
I can guarantee you there was a little bit of Afrikaans thrown into that French as well.
No doubt about it. Let's go back to the front end of the field. It's Luke Lucchesi. He's got 2.7 second gap, and as I said earlier on, I personally don't think anybody's really going to be able to make any impact on that lead that he has now got. But as Frankie says, don't count out Luke King. This is one of his best. And here comes Umpi Swart. Now, Umpi Swart is now coming up behind Peter van der Spy, but Peter van der Spy has already been lapped by of the front runners and will be aware of the guys coming through behind him. And you'll probably find he will make it not easy, but he won't make it difficult for them to get through.
Can we say Willem Botha speaks French? I don't think so. But the day that he's having, I think he's learning to speak French very quickly.
He's learned some new French words, no doubt about it. Captain Peter van der Spy in there. And a big thanks to Peter van der Spy joining in with the Big Five, making it possible for Second Year Productions to bring you this 1080p HD on YouTube and on 720p on your normal Facebook pages. Canvas Intelligence, the main sponsor for this series. We are in round number 3 of 8 rounds. It's 37 laps. It's 1 hour 12 of 1 hour 30. And here we go. The action just does not stop.
Familiaris there, right on the case of Umpi Swart FC. It is game on. It is absolute flat out between. Look at Byron Mitchell. Mitchell has just decided, well, I'm going to mix it in there as well, and he splits Swart and Familiaris. As a matter of fact,
he goes
up to third.
Yeah, up into third goes Byron Mitchell. And I was just about to comment, Byron Mitchell uses the most interesting lines. He goes wide where nobody else even dares to venture to go and put a car, and he carries so much speed into those corners and out of those corners. That's where it's important, how much speed you can carry out of the corner. Just look at this, how closely he follows that BMW. He dives, he dummies to the right, then dives to the left, up on that inside, right up against that wall, and makes that beautiful move stick.
That's a Max Verstappen lunge to take that position away.
Well, there's our word for the day. You lunge yourself into that position. Julian Familiaris in that 5th place. Can he make it stick? We're running out of time. It's 1 hour 14, and you still have that high-speed train up front. We knew the series was going to be good. We thought there was going to be a lot of people in excess of 60 people that tried to get into this series. The best of the rest taking part in the Porsche Cup series. If you end up at the back end of the leaderboard after a couple of races with the Canvas Intelligence GTE, you then drop down into the Porsche series, and the top of the Porsche series comes up into this. So you don't want to be at the tail end of the field whatsoever. Julian Familiaris must be feeling the pressure. He's been so close all meeting long, and Umpi Swart is right in there where the business end of the field is as well.
And as a matter of fact, guys, there's still that fight going on out there for 12th position. I just got to mention it between Graham Stephen and Andrew Brown. There's only a tenth of a second between them, and that could change around. But as we know, Graham Stephen is going to make life very difficult for Andrew Brown. So even though that's not the fight for the for the front end of the field, it's the one to keep an eye on as Johan Fourie goes very wide and exceeds some track limits there.
That shows you how hard Johan Fourie is pushing to get back to where it really counts. He finds himself in 7th position as we go back to that Graham Stephen battle.
Yeah, behind the Graham Stephen and Andrew Brown battle, which is also quite close. As Brown goes, he does a similar move to what Byron Mitchell just did down, but he runs it way wide. He could lose it here as Graham Stephen fights back, coming out of Sunset Bend onto the main straight. They go now down to the main straight. Can Graham Stephen hold on? It's side by side, virtually side by side, as Andrew Brown sits on that outside. But no, he's got to fall back into turn number 1. Now he dummies up into the inside. Graham Stephen defends hard. But there it goes. Brown makes the move stick up into that 12th position.
So eventually making his way through there, and all of a sudden Leighton Fourie comes into play as well. There's Leighton Fourie. Leighton Fourie now on the case of Graham Stephen. It's not only fighting up front, there's a lot of fighting in that mid-pack, and that is one of them that we're looking at right now.
Well, that's the in-car from Graham Stephen on that passing maneuver as they work their way up the straight. Look at that flat foot in 6th gear, and you just got to ease it in down to 5th, down to 4th. You see in the camera mirror shot going towards the back of the car, you see that man dabbling around behind you, and the next thing he pops up in front of you, and oh my dear, all that work for nothing. You go back to exactly where you were. Let's go back, FC, to the front end of the field. It's Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, Luke Lucchesi leading this race here, almost 4 seconds ahead of Luke King. Luke King trying everything he can. He's lost out there after that fight with Peter van der Spey as a back marker, but he's now 4 seconds adrift. Behind him, the hard-charging Byron Mitchell. His last lap was a 157 point something. And then Julian Familiaris also did a very good lap there of 157.4 as he sits there in that 4th position ahead of Yuri Umpiswart.
Oh, Yuri's all over him. Yuri is crowding the back end of the Familiaris at BMW. And I tell you what, he's going to go for it. He's going to go somewhere. Will he have a lunge and have a go up somewhere on the inside of Familiaris? 0.3 of a second. He won't do it over here, that's for sure, as they go into that right-hander, unless Julian makes a mistake
like that,
which is highly unlikely. But he is being pressurized heavily there by Yuri Swart.
No doubt about it that the pressures on Yuri once that position from Julian Familiaris. You actually saw the smoke off the back wheels of that car in front of him.
I actually ducked for a marble. There was a marble that came flying out from there.
Well, that's 108 OP. Big thanks to the Big Five for making it possible for Sector Productions to bring you this quality of iRacing. The best of the best in South Africa. 1 hour 18.22 gone of 1 hour 30. Mr. Luke Lucchesi losing no ground whatsoever at this stage of the fight. He's moving away from Luke King. Frankly, probably the best we've seen from Luke King to date.
Yes, indeed. But Johan Fourie is coming under attack from Jacques Botha. There's only 0.7 of a second between Fourie in P7 and Botha in P8. So we're going to have a look at that one as Jacques Botha is all over the back end there of the Johan Fourie Ferrari.
Yeah, the Ferrari there of Fourie being hounded there by Jacques Botha. Botha doing a very controlled drive. Like I said earlier, doesn't do anything flashy, doesn't do anything stupid. but the next moment you see Johan Botha's on your case.
And then Gary down in 12th position. Leighton Fourie is not getting away from Graham Stephen and Andrew Brown. So that fight going on out there for that 12th position is still very much on. That's the only real fight out there at this point in time. And that is the one for P12 between Leighton Fourie, Graham Stephen, and the 32 car of Andrew Brown.
Andrew Brown are making that move now and trying to see if he can go just one up. And I must say, he's done a pretty good job. He finds himself inside of the top 15. But if you look at those gaps, FC, after almost an hour and a half of racing, so minuscule, the gaps between all of these top South African iRacing drivers. I would like to see the likes of Jaco Steyn, Dr. Mike Verrier, Sandro Baccario also does a lot of work in the background, Luke Lucchese that helps so many people, try and get together the top 15 South African drivers and put a challenge out there to the best in the world and say, Class A drivers, you can qualify against us. Let's have a South Africa versus the rest, a 3 or a 4 race series later on in 2022 and see how that one comes out. That would really be something amazing.
So basically what you're saying is you're going to choose 15 from the rest of the world. So you're going to have the Springboks versus a World 15.
Well, literally put it out on the iRacing worldwide. Remember, there's at any given time, on average, between 6,000 and 15,000 people on the iRacing at any given time doing normal social racing. If you can do the marketing process, and with the likes of Canvas Intelligence on board with us, and the revealing of another very big name for one of our other series, the touring car series, the TCR, we're going to very possibly be in a situation where we can put that out to the rest of the world and say, come and play. And that's where you get these A-plus drivers, the Verstappens of this world, the Van der Lindes of this world, that are doing British touring cars and German touring cars and the IMUSAT series and what have you, and get these guys into it and try and find a way to get the best of the rest of iRacing worldwide to have a go at our top boys. But we first got to prove to them what we can do. And I think right here tonight, we're proving exactly what we are capable of.
Well, let's see. It's all out there. You can see what these guys are doing. And Luke King is right in there with Byron Mitchell. And Yuri Swart is right on the case of Familiaris. Remember, he's not going to let Julian get away from him. But Luke King, the man that's all on the back end there of Byron Mitchell. Now, is he catching Byron?
No, he actually lost the position to Byron. Byron just overtook him for that second position.
Is that gap going to get bigger between himself and
that gap's going to get bigger, and that gap's going to shrink to Luke Lucchese, because we know what lap times Byron Mitchell has been putting up throughout this race.
That was the in-car footage of Byron Mitchell doing the parts on Luke King.
So, Byron Mitchell has now moved up into that second position. Now, is that gap going to get smaller between himself and race leader Luke Lucchese? I would say yes, it is. 1 hour and 22 minutes done. There's 4.3 seconds between Lucchese and Mitchell. It's game on. It's not over yet, gentlemen.
Yeah, still quite a lot that can happen in 7 minutes from now. Let's have a look. Can Byron Mitchell work down a 4-second deficit in just 7 minutes before the end of this race? There is a Yuri Umpi-Swart who sits there behind a Familiaris. Just 0.7 of a second between them. And this is a sign of a healthy racing series. Your top 8, 9, 10 guys all so close to one another that it can still go either way.
Well, I tell you what, this is all that I expected tonight, and 100 times more. This is brilliant. Josh Kutzer, a man that did so well in the other rounds, finds himself in 10th position, believe it or not, and 20 seconds behind Keegan Masters. You wouldn't believe that in a month of Sundays. Keegan Campos, who does so well out there in main circuit racing, sitting in 11th position, and he's 10 seconds behind Josh Kutzer. Leighton Fourie in 12th position, the reigning defending South African National Polo Cup champion, 4.8 seconds behind Keegan Campos, and those guys are sitting P8, 9, 10 11 and even 12 positions out there. It's crazy that these hot shots are fighting it out there for mid-pack. That is the quality of the competition that we have out there.
How do you get 13 people ahead of that man, Graham Stephen, one of the best out there? What about the likes of very accomplished main circuit racer, Matt Shorter? Matt Shorter finds himself outside of the top 15 at this stage of the fight.
Yeah, Matt Shorter, FC crazy, but he's all over the back there of Rudy Murray.
Yeah, Rudy Murray in a bit of trouble there in the black Ferrari as Shorter is all over him in that bright blue Porsche. He's making life very, very hard there for Rudy Murray. Let's have a look here. Replay for Peter Hubert. Ooh, runs it very, very wide there and plants that BMW onto the grass.
Goes in way too deep, does Peter Hubert, and has to make his way back out on track once again. And there is Matt Shorter, still all over the back end there of Rudy Murray. Only 0.4 of a second between Murray and Shorter in there behind him. And geez, I tell you what, you wouldn't think that Matt Shorter would be fighting out there for 17th position, but I know I'm repeating myself, but this is the quality of drivers that we have out there in this series.
You also wouldn't have said that Jason Kutsia would be battling it out there for 24th position. A lot of big names out there. Johan Engelbrecht in 25th, Reinier Hubert 27th, Jonty Weiss 29th, Captain Pete in 30th. Where these are unheard of terms, it just shows you how good all of these guys are out there.
Sander Bakari 21st, Swiss Hubert 22nd. It's crazy. Johan Engelbrecht 24th. Man, I tell you what, it is quality all the way down that leaderboard. You have to be either very, 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 very good or very lucky to win this one. The bottom line is, don't put a wheel out of line.
Yeah,
well,
like
that was almost a wheel out of line for Johan Engelbrecht, but he did a great job of putting it back together. One of the big five that has made this whole thing possible for us. Jacques Werter, I think he will be pretty chuffed with where he is outside of the top five, but if you look at who he's got in front of him, look at who he's got behind him, I think he can be pretty chuffed with his efforts for the day in the ELJY motor sponsored car.
Oh, Ferrari makes a mistake. Yeah.
In stereo.
Ferrari makes a big mistake there as Jacques Witter is there in that 7th position. So another position gained there by Jacques Witter. Like I said earlier, nothing fancy, nothing courageous. Just the next moment you see, boom, Jacques Witter is right behind you, and next moment, boom, Jacques Witter has passed.
Now the name you're not going to forget, Frankie, is Luke King. What a good, consistent drive by Luke King, as we see Keegan Masters closing on the back of Johan Ferrari, having made that slight error.
Yeah, well, that front half has been blown completely apart now. There's either a second or more between all of them. So, yeah, earlier on in this race, before that first round of pit stops, these guys were crawling all over each other. And now, as this race evolves, this hour-and-a-half enduro evolves, you can see the gaps are now beginning to open up between these drivers. Keeping in mind that a bit of fatigue is also setting in as well. But no fatigue for Keegan Masters, because he is now 0.5 of a second by Johan Ferrari after Ferrari made that mistake earlier on.
Nice delivery on the side of that car. You see the names actually at the bottom underneath the logo that's on there, Keegan Masters. And man, we don't often get to see racing down here at Grand International Raceway, but definitely very, very adept on iRacing at a national and international level as well. Keegan Masters inside of the top 10 with a very big gap back to Josh Kurtzer from there. So Keegan Masters, well, now he's got to decide. Johan Ferrari, you've made 1 or 2 mistakes. Have you got problems? I don't know. Are you tired? I don't think so. But he will definitely fancy having a go. But do you take a chance with just 1.5 minutes to go?
Yeah, 1.5 minutes left to go in this race. And a lot of people would ask, really, how tired can you get? It's not like driving an actual car with G-forces and all of that. But the amount of concentration that it takes in a tight field like this, it's almost as tough a workout. And even with all the steering and the pedal boxes having the feedback it would have had in a real racing car, it's almost as bad and heavy a workout as in a real race car.
It is, in fact, very similar, if not heavier. I've had the opportunity to get onto the rig held, see the white flag that was being waved there for this man, Luke Lucchesi. I've actually had an opportunity when I had 2 good legs to get onto the simulator of Captain Peter van der Spey. And believe you me, you put your foot on the brake the first time, and my reaction was, sorry, there's something wrong with your setups. There's no brakes. He says, no, you must press. So you don't understand. I pressed. He says, no, you don't understand. He says, this is like a gym. You need to climb on that brake pedal, and a load of anything up to 80, 90 kilos that you put onto the brake pedal on these very fancy sets that they've got a lot of the guys running with Fanatec, same and similar, and spending lots and lots of money to get as close as what you possibly can to the real experience of racing out there. Talking about a real experience, Luke Lucchesi will class this as one of his favorites.
Yeah, Andrew Brown has actually made a calculation error. He's gone into the pits for a last splash and dash to make it to the end of this race. We have reached 1 hour and 30 minutes. So the next time Luke Lucchesi will come down the main straight, the checkered flag will be waiting for him. He comes round that corner down the Ullman straight now. This is the last time he'll come down that back straight before he heads into turn number 17, Sunset Bend, as he gets past the likes there of Suez Hubert in the other Wild Rose Gin car. Into Sunset he goes, your race leader, and the checkered flag will be waiting for him now as he comes around the final corner. Luke Lucchesi comes through to win round number 3 at Sebring International Speedway.
Well done there to Luke Lucchesi. 1.7 seconds behind him is Byron Mitchell. We knew Byron would fight back and fight back hard, which he has done. Luke King comes home in that 3rd position. Familiaris finishes there in 4th. Yuri Smart finishes in 5th, just ahead there of Francois Hubert, followed there by Jacques Botha and Johan Fourie and Keegan Masters.
Can you believe it? As fast as Frankie could say the names, that is the way they came through after 1.5 hours of racing. It just doesn't get any closer.
Yeah, next man to come through now is the 10th place man, Josh Kurtzer. That'll finish his race, followed by Keegan Campos there in P11 as he comes around Sunset Bend now in that beautiful Ferrari. He's going to cross the finish line in that 11th position. Leighton Fourie, the next man through in the 46 Porsche. He will come and finish his race, followed by the Gulf Oil car there of Graham Stephen.
Then here comes Noor Hendricks to the line, but he's got trouble. The trouble is called Rudy Murray and Matt Shorter, but Hendricks has done just enough to stay ahead there of Murray and Shorter for 14th, 15th and 16th positions.
Peter Hubert finishes in 17th, followed by Andrew Brown. That is Andrew that'll cross the start-finish line there around about now. There he goes. Andrew Brown in 18th. Now Zach Foster will come around the final bend in that red and yellow Porsche to finish his race in 19th position, followed by Mr. Raymond Duggan in 20th place.
Yeah, and then Sandro Bakari will make his way to the line, and he will also be the last driver on the lead lap.
Sure.
So, hectic stuff, as Gary would always say. Hectic. But it was hectic.
As Gary would always say, fantastic.
I'm going to say it. Fantastic.
I'll tell you what, I'm also going to say that for the first time. Fantastic.
Well, that was utterly amazing. A big, massive thank you to the Big Five for making it possible for Second Year Productions to bring you this quality of 1080p HD with 60 frames per second, and just bringing the best of the best in South Africa into your lounges so that you can watch and see exactly how good of our top racers are out there. And as we wait for that results board to come through on the overall results, let's see if we can pick that one up for you.
And while we're waiting for that, I want to say big thanks to Canvas Intelligence. Thank you very much. And also, I picked up early on one of the other sponsors was
ASAP Motorspares. Yeah,
I want to say massive thanks to them as well. Without the sponsors, there's no ways that we can do this. So to Canvas Intelligence, ASAP, from my side, from all of our sides here, thank you very much.
So there we have it, the official classification of this race. Luke Lucchesi bringing home the win there for Pantera Racing. Byron Mitchell in P2. Luke King brought home that 3rd position, followed by Julian Familiaris and Yuri Umpiswat rounding off your top 5.
Yeah, then it's Francois Hubert in P6, followed there by Jacques Buerta, Johan Fourie, Keegan Masters, and rounding off the top 10 is Josh Kurtzer.
Keegan Campos in P11, Leighton Fourie P12, then Graham Stephen, Noor Hendricks, Rudy Marais, Matt Shorter, Peter Hubert, Andrew Brown, as Zach Foster, and Raymond Duggan brings it home that 20th position.
In there behind that, and you don't have to be shy with coming in 20th position or 21st, because it's all big names in front of you. Sandra Bakari, Swayze Hubert, Andrew Thomas, Johan Engelbrecht, Corne Brett. He had a bad experience during the course of the race that cost him big time. Jan Spammers, Renier Hubert, John T. Weiss, Peter van der Spey, and while the rest of the guys are coming through behind that. But
and then Gary, really bad luck out there for Bradley Liebenberg and Jeffrey Kruger. They're obviously retired, but sure, they didn't have a good one. Right, driver of the day, I think it's unanimous, Mr. Luke King.
Oh yes, 100%.
well, we often go to a racetrack and we say, well, folks, we don't really know all these people very well, but by the end of the day, we'll have learned some new names. Well, if you've joined us this evening, I think you've learned a couple of new names. It's called Mr. Luke Lucchese. It is the man, Byron Mitchell, and driver of the day. Yeah, Frankie, I'm going to go with you with that one. I think looking brilliant to beat out the likes of the very highly acclaimed Julian Familiaris, Umpi Swart as well in that top 5. FC Nieuwoud, very big thanks on behalf of Second Gear Productions for joining us. A closing word from your side.
Yeah, lovely to once again be here in the Second Gear Productions studio. It was wonderful to bring you all the racing action here from the Sebring International Raceway, and I look forward to round number 4. Until then, take care.
Frankie Innes, the voice of West Bromwich Motorsport, as always in the Second Gear studio, bringing South Africa the best of iRacing in South Africa. Closing word from your side.
I need to take a lie down now. I think that's how hectic it was. Martin Brundle would always say, I need to go lie down in a dark room. Well, that's what I need to do now. No, jokes aside, guys and girls and everybody out there watching, fantastic. It's been absolutely amazing. And once again, from my side to the sponsors, Canvas Intelligence and ASAP, thank you very much. And to Motorsport SA for backing the series.
From my side, Gary Fleming, hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to joining you in the not too distant future with more iRacing in your own home. And, well, it's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you. Good night, everybody.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams, race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.